Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to another live stream. And this is an ambitious live stream today because, as you can see, someone's got the stream on. By the way, you're going to have to turn that off. Thanks, guys.
Great start.
Yeah, great start. So as you can see, we've got a lot of people in stream today, a lot of interesting guests, and we've got some interesting stuff to get into. Now, before we get into it all, I will give you some introductions, and I've gone old school today. I've written down some introductions. I've got a thing off topic, but I've got a thing I do each morning now. Right? The first hour of the day, I try and stay off screen, and so I wrote down my intro script rather than typing it on a phone or a laptop. Here's what we've got then. So I'm going to go in the order that you guys are on screen. So let's go Lawrence first then. So top, wave Lawrence, say hi. All right, this is Lawrence Anton. Lawrence, best known for his anti-natalism advocacy, but he's also a passionate vegan who regularly speaks up for animals, as well as volunteering at his local sanctuary. Welcome, Lawrence Anton.
Which I was at yesterday.
Which you were at yesterday. Yep. Amazing. Next up, we've got JP's up there. JP gives a wave. All right, where's JP? Here we go. JP is the founder of Artie's Parties, an all-vegan entertainment company that runs events such as vegan comedy nights and vegan cabaret nights across the UK. Also, you've dipped your toe in a little bit of street activism as well. And but yeah, I think your main claim to fame here is this incredible thing you've put together across the UK, which we'll definitely, hopefully get into because I think it's really cool. So welcome, JP. Then we've got James Hattersley. Gives a wave, James. At top right there. James Hattersley is the director and co-founder of the incredible animal rights group We the Free. We the Free has groups all over the world doing innovative and effective street activism for animals. Welcome, James. And we've got George Martin. Give us a wave. You got to identify yourselves, guys. George is the founder of Carnism Debunked, a website and social media channels designed to help both vegans and non-vegans answer the most common questions and arguments against veganism. And I didn't write this down, but it's also been involved in the movement. I believe, what has it been now? Like, is it 8 years, 9 years or longer?
What, as in how long has the website been?
How long have you been active?
How long have I been active? Well, I went vegan in January 2013, and I've been active online ever since then, and then active on the street, I'd say about since 2016.
Yeah, so you've been around for a long time. That was my point. It's impressive, man, that you're still at it. And Clif Grant gives a wave.
Hello.
So Clif, where's Clif? There you go. Clif Grant. Clif is a street outreacher and an extremely dedicated street outreach. You'll find him on the streets of Belfast practically every day, engaging with the public, raising awareness of veganism and advocating for change for animals. And also with the street activism he does every day, he's also posting videos practically every day as well, I believe, at this point, Clif, which is
just about, yeah,
absolutely wild, amazing work. And then last but not least, we've got Chris Hines.
Hello.
So Chris is also a dedicated, passionate activist and filmmaker who's been working on a film exploring animal rights in music and the history of animal rights in music. He's interviewed some of the most famous people around actually for this, and some that you might not know about as well, discovering the links and ties to veganism and animal rights throughout musical history, which we're all very excited for. Chris.
Me too.
Amazing. Welcome, everybody. We got through it. We got through the intro.
That seemed very formal. I felt like it was like a game show.
Well, I just want everyone to know, like I said when I was promoting this, I said these are some of my favorite people, and well, they need to know why you're some of my favorite people.
Thanks.
Apart from just as being mates. So before we kick things off,
you were going to say apart from name somebody.
Apart from Cliff.
So, guys, for you in the chat, welcome everybody. I see the chat is already flowing, going strong. That's awesome. If you have questions or comments for literally any of us or all of us, because of there being so many of us, we can't be just looking at the chat that much. So the way you're going to do it today is use Streamlabs, the link's right there in the pinned comment, or use the super chat option. And I will guarantee that we'll get to that and we'll answer whatever question or comment that you have. Otherwise, take your chances in the live chat, but it's unlikely today with there being 7 of us and, us all chatting away. All right, cool. All right. Well,
what's on the agenda then?
What's on the agenda?
What's
Yeah.
this?
Well,
Yeah.
we'll start off with just something real simple. Just kick everything off and get the juices flowing.
You don't want juices.
As I was saying those words, it actually felt wrong, but I thought, you know what, I've committed now. So what's one positive trend in the vegan world from 2024 that you're all excited to see continue into 2025?
I don't know, actually. That's a
I've
good
got one.
question.
Yeah, go for it.
I have noticed that there have been more positive vegan representations on TV. Somewhat bizarrely on GB News, which has taken a lot of flack for being sort of right-wing propagandists. But that said, there was a really interesting interview that Eamon Holmes had with someone about turkeys sort of towards last Christmas, I think. But then Ed's been on a couple of times, got a respectful listen. I'm sure there's a couple of other things on BBC and things that we've seen where vegans weren't the butt of the joke, or people weren't taking a piss out of them, or there weren't some freakish kind of extremist portrayal. It was actually sensible conversations that there was one with Ed where he was up against 3 meat eaters, and I think he really held his ground, didn't he? Where he was
it was the sausage master, right? The sausage expert.
Sausage man,
again.
Yeah. So I think I've noticed that as a kind of trend, which I hope continues into next year.
Yeah.
Just adding on the back of that. So I don't know if this is something that has kind of always been the case, because we did have Chicken Run many years ago, but there was a kids' Christmas film.
Yeah, I saw that. It was really good.
Yeah, that came out for Christmas this year called That Christmas, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
And it had a very vegan scene in it. It actually had some animal liberations in it. So that was very cool. There was a scene with all the people in the town, you know, for some reason had to go get their turkeys for Christmas from a specific farmer, who the farmer is painted in the film to be, you know, very evil and all this sort of stuff. And as they're queuing up to buy their turkeys, one of the kids runs around the back of the barn and liberates them all, and they all fly away. And I can't remember, but I don't think she's painted it as any form of extremist or anything. And she explains that she doesn't want to eat turkey because it would kill the turkeys, which is pretty cool. And then you also had Chicken Run 2 come out. So there's a few. I know kids' films always kind of center around animals a lot of the time, but it's kind of breaking through the sort of carnist sort of framing that can often be in.
Isn't Wicked as well?
Massive queue for Cliff to talk about Wicked. We can all go and make cups of tea.
Yeah.
I don't
How
know.
many
I have
times have
no
you seen
idea
it?
what you're talking about.
Cliff, have you not seen it twice now?
I don't know what you're talking about at all.
Just so everyone knows watching
There's
the
been-
stream, this is Cliff's #1 animal liberation documentary of all time. It's called Wicked. You can go and watch it in cinemas now.
There has been, like in the Hollywood scene, quite a few films in the last couple of years with a vegan message.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
I've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, the last one, had a vegan message too. And Okja. I even say Avatar has kind of got a vegan message in there as well. So
Is it a bit depressing though? Sorry to bring
Bringing it all down already.
bring the shit into the stream for a second, if I may. But these kind of movies have been happening since we were kids. Things like Babe, Chicken Run, all that kind of stuff. And yet nothing's changed.
Babe
really.
said the main actor vegan.
It did.
What's
It
his
did.
name? James Cornell,
Cromwell.
or whatever his name is.
But the
Cornwell?
point is,
and Activist.
it didn't turn
Big time.
enough people vegan in general. So I don't know if it seems to be, doesn't it, quite a central theme in a lot of movies and books and stuff that, and I guess it shows the natural empathy so many people do have for animals, that, you know, we want to save these animals from the humans killing them, but then these people just aren't getting the message. So Is this going to be the case with these movies like Wicked, where people watch it and go, "Oh wow, how beautiful! The animals got rights," or whatever happens in it? I haven't even seen it. Cliff can tell you everything about it.
I posted in my story. Sorry to interrupt you about it, and a few people messaged me and said they had gone vegan years ago because of the musical or whatever it was before the film ever came out.
Oh, okay.
So they made the connection from that. So I suppose there are some people that are going to get it.
Well, you know what, Cliff? Just as a trade-off, because you watched Cowspiracy, I will watch Wicked.
That's a fair trade.
That's a fair deal.
Yeah, I think like. Oh, sorry. Go on, Lawrence. You were waiting.
No, I haven't seen Wicked and have no idea what the vegan undertone is. Can someone just give like a whistle stop?
Cliff?
Go, Cliff. Get the hand.
It's your moment, bro.
Cliff is now. You know that meme of the killing class?
I can do it. I'll do it in 20 seconds. So the Bad Witch, Elphaba, the reason she is cast out of society is because the rest of Munchkin Land or wherever it is, what's the name? I don't even know where it is. But they're trying to silence animals, put them in cages, not allow them to speak or talk anymore. And she wants to fight against that. So she gives up her dreams to help liberate the animals.
Okay, that's cool. So one thing I was going to say was, because you know how George was being a bit of a doomer about how, even back in the day, these things were posted, during the war, this sort of shit.
I've got my Doomer hat as well.
But Chicken Run, Babe, whatever, these films have been around for a while, but there does seem to be an increase of them, and maybe they aren't going to be, as individual films, impactful in terms of making people vegan, but they could be reflecting a changing society. So it could be the other way around, that this message is more normalized, so you get it reflected more in media, especially to children, which is, if we're going to try and influence any media, that's kind of good, because you want to, this is a really weird phrasing, but get them while they're young, sort of thing.
From you, Lawrence. Not sure you're fit to comment on that.
Oh my god!
But it could be reflecting the fact that society is changing for the better. But whatever. Let's swiftly.
No,
move on
you're right. I think about this. Like, I'm watching Sopranos right now. The Sopranos. Has anyone seen the series? Do you know it? No one's seen it.
No.
It's one of the. It's like hails like one of the best series.
Brilliant.
It's supposed to be like best series of all time, basically. A lot of people say it's like the best ever made, still to this day, and it was made in like 2000 or something like that. And even in that, right, so they've got this mob boss, Tony Soprano, and he's brutal. He's very reasonable and pragmatic, but he is brutal to humans. He's horrible to humans. If he wants money off you, if you owe him money, like he'll hurt you quite badly. And he's got no feelings about it. Like he's happy to do it. But when someone's innocent, he has a lot of empathy. It's only when they're not innocent where he'll flip on them and he'll do stuff to them. And throughout the series, I'm up to like season 4 right now. The series has constantly portrayed his beliefs and the way he treats animals. And he is ferociously defensive of animals in the series. He will literally, he's been close to killing people because of things they've done to animals. And he argues in their favor. He'll say like they're a beautiful like creature, that's a beautiful animal, they're innocent. Like he'll say the kinds of things that you would imagine like a vegan would say. And so like it's been present even from as early as that in a series where someone's so violent, but he shows a lot of empathy when someone's innocent or an animal's innocent. And what I think that doesn't necessarily create a vegan. That's not going to make someone go vegan. But what it will do is it reinforces this. It is largely a Western idea, by the way, I think, and I suppose like some areas of the East, but it's like it's the idea that to be good to animals, that they're not things. It's prevalent here, and when it comes to pets, in a lot of other countries, it's not. A lot of countries, they see pets as a weird thing, for example, right? There's areas like India, for example, where they have a lot of respect for certain animals, but definitely not all animals. And I think the series and TV and movies and stuff like that, they might not exactly create new vegans, but they do reinforce that idea. And that's good that it stays there, right? So even if we don't have like new vegans from Wicked or whatever, it's still reinforcing that baseline that, oh, we should be good to them, even if it doesn't make people go vegan. And that imagine if we didn't have that. Imagine if we start off with someone So here's where people just like, oh, we should be good to animals. Here's where we start. Okay, good starting point. Imagine if we had none of that influence and we started here where people are just like, no, like there is no reason whatsoever to even consider them. Imagine if we were here. So I think that's what the TV and media helps do. It keeps people at that kind of baseline of you know what I mean? Of that attitude.
I've just actually noticed something. Babe is actually the reason why I'm vegan, because Babe influenced John Feldman from Goldfinger, who influenced me to become an animal rights activist.
Right.
So there, the power of Babe right here in human form.
Yeah.
Has everyone heard though? I put the Doomer hat back on.
I know. Yeah.
Has everyone heard the latest about John Feldman?
Oh, we don't need to go into this, are we?
I don't know who that is. Who's John
I know,
Feldman?
but trust me, it pains
He's
me.
the reason, essentially, that Chris Hines is vegan. And obviously, Chris Hines is now, by proxy, no longer vegan because John Feldman from Goldfinger recently stated in an interview with a magazine that he's eating fish again or something. So
Right.
I know, it's a touchy subject, and I don't know why, and I'm hoping when the film
I
comes
see
out,
Rams's
I can
finger like
sway it
lingering
back.
on the boot
I'm
button.
hoping I can. I'm putting the positive spin on it, right? I'm hoping my film's going to get him back on track because he was doing such amazing
Well,
work.
look, I can bring a little bit of, take some. You don't need to. Doesn't need to be doomer. Like at the end of the day, if your guy is doing that, obviously that is absolutely not good for fish. 100%. That's why we're bothered. But in terms of like him compared to the rest of the world, he's still setting a pretty damn good example. If everybody did what he was doing, imagine the world we'd have. So it's like, it's not like, you don't have to be so like, oh my God, everything's over. It's like, okay, he's doing something that's not great, but he's not doing a lot of other things, which is also great, right? There's no need to be like...
Apologist Rams.
Come off it.
Jimmy Savile did a lot for charity, Rams.
Say again, sorry?
Jimmy Savile did a lot for charity.
Yeah, but that's not the point that's being made here. You know damn right it isn't.
What
So
do you
what's
think it is
next
about
on the agenda
celebrity
before this goes down?
I believe we were talking about Jimmy Savile and the BBC scandal.
Wow. Unreal.
Somebody's gonna take like small snippets of this, like and make a really damaging read out of it.
Hey, look.
No, but my bit about Jimmy Savile
20 minutes.
first.
Can we
No,
stop
no,
saying
that's all it took.
that name
20 minutes.
repeatedly on this public live stream on my main channel? How about we do that? That'd be great if we could like not say that again. You go JS if you're going to say his name. How about that?
We got an interesting comment in the chat. David Tobias Rams.
Yeah. Is that George on his alternate account? I bet.
I think so, yeah.
Oh, what is that? Sorry, guys.
Yeah, but we got to obviously all I'm saying is like be a little bit bloody. Look at it at the wider picture, and hyper focusing on someone's one bad decision is probably not like that useful, even though it upsets you because you hold them up to a high standard. It's like, okay, if we can be like chill about it, calm, and deal with it, it's more likely that this guy's gonna be like, actually, you know what, I'll leave that, versus acting like he's just literally committed some kind of, you know what I mean, treating him like he's like evil, like complete, like as bad as somebody who goes out hunting and killing loads of animals. Is like, that's probably not gonna solve anything for him or the fish. You know what I mean? That's my point.
Let me just push back there, Rams, because I think there's a certain I get why when people aren't vegan, because we were all non-vegan at a certain point, but when it comes to ex-vegans, there's a certain level of fuckery going on in the mind there that's like, they know everything, they've seen everything. In Feldman's case, he's written songs about it, he's poured his heart out about it into his music with songs like Free Me. And then that's a Goldfinger song, right, Chris?
Yeah.
And then he just goes and does it. Like, what is going on in these? Do you not think that these people? I don't know. I think there's a case to be made that ex-vegans are possibly worse than the average non-vegan.
I think it's a bit odd then, because the thing is, if you're going to look at the average person who isn't vegan, they are doing like unbelievably, the amount of harm and damage and exploitation of animals that they are part of is so unbelievably high in comparison to this guy, for example, who I don't agree with what he's done. But to kind of say he's worse because he should know better, it's like, well, like, not to the animals. To the animals, he's actually significantly better than the majority of the world, if we look at it from their perspective. But it's only through our perspective because we're disappointed in him. And so I understand where you're coming from. I'm disappointed too. It's like, how could you do that? But I think if we do think about it, we can kind of, I don't know what these reasons are, but like we can use Peter Dinklage as an example. Everyone jumped on that guy and they're like, oh, he's a millionaire. He's successful. How could he do this? How could he do this? And my guess on that, basically, like I suppose informed guess based on who he is that the guy grew up with dwarfism, which automatically means he's had a shocking childhood. That it must have been horrible, not just like because of society, but also physically. These people have a lot of problems, right? So just living that life is going to put you in a place. He was talking at the time where he started eating fish again. He was talking about how he was having some problems thinking about his dad who died and things like that. It's not like, it's horrible that he was vegan and was defending animals and now he isn't. But like how he got from A to B, it's not that difficult to kind of speculate. It's like you have an emotional breakdown. You've had a very emotional life. You've had a very difficult life. You miss your dad. You have a moment of weakness that turns into a lifetime of weakness because guess what? The rest of the world isn't vegan. And so your moment of weakness is backed up by everybody around you who isn't vegan. It's not crazy to imagine why people go that way. And then it gets to a certain point where it becomes very difficult to make them see what they saw, originally. And it's like kind of like the masses versus the minority. And that's where we really struggle, like how do we catch them and make them see sense, right?
It's interesting because Rams is focusing on, what's the impact of this decision on animals? Whereas, George, you're talking about like, who is this person and what's going on in their head? What's their morality at? Whereas for me, I'm thinking about, okay, what impact can I have here? Is this person a low-hanging fruit because they get it, but they've made some terrible decision now? Are they a low-hanging fruit? Because when I know for most of us guys, if we're there in like an outreach conversation in the street and this person says, I'm a vegetarian, the first thing we'll think is, oh, great, this is someone that's probably, they're an animal lover, but they've not connected these other dots. And it's an easy win. Like, how much easier is it talking to a vegetarian and getting them to consider veganism than somebody that's not completely?
I think with vegetarians, actually, James, it's the case of either two extremes. I either find that vegetarians are either the low-hanging fruit, as you say, just like the easiest people to talk to, and it's just like, look, you just need to know and do this, and then boom, you've done it. Or they are the worst carnists of all, like the absolute worst. In fact, I've seen, I remember there was an AV demo in Leicestershire, I think it was a few years back, and a vegetarian bystander ended up going to the butcher's and buying a piece of bacon and using it as a badge to fasten it on his t-shirt to
I remember that.
And then they make it even worse because they claim they're on the same side as us. They say stuff like, I'm a vegetarian, but I would never force. And it's like, well, yeah, we know you wouldn't because you're literally funding the very thing that we're against.
Vegans say that too, though. Loads of vegans will say, "Oh, I'm vegan, but I would never go out and do what those vegans do." That's just like trying to fit in.
But I still cook chicken for my partner.
Right. That's more. That's more like they just don't want to be expelled from their social circles and society. Which, believe it or not, maybe not in this live chat and maybe not in this podcast, but like most people really don't want to lose their community and society, and that this is something that's really important to them. I find actually a lot of vegans are the types of personalities that don't care so much about that. And I know everybody here is, you guys all, I know you personally, you all fit into that category. None of you particularly cares what people think about you, but that's like that survivorship bias. That's like, well, of course, we all think that this is possible then, but that's because we all know each other and we're all like that. But the rest of the world, I'd say a good 80-90% of the world, this is not part of their personality. Like they actually deeply care about the people around them and the society. And so they don't want to be perceived in the way we're perceived, and they'll do whatever they can to make that not happen. It's really difficult for us to kind of bring them in, and show them that You don't have to be like some weirdo or something to stand up for animals. Like, you don't have to be some freak or something. You can work a normal 9-5, have a normal life, and just come at the weekend and do some outreach. Like, it's not, you know.
This is definitely a PR issue within veganism. We need to be more normal. There's so many vegans who are just absolute
Glass houses.
But there's so many vegans who are just absolute weirdos, and that's absolutely fine. I want everyone to be free to express themselves however they want, do what, you know, dress how they like, do whatever they want. But
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what's been interesting. You say that, George, is that I've done these parties, and they're vegan comics in vegan venues, raising money for vegan sanctuaries, and I've coincided them with like marches and special days and stuff like that. So most of the people attending are quite activist vegans, and the ones who aren't are most of the comedians. So most of the comedians are just people getting on with it. They're not bothered about this. I'd speak to them. You mentioned Earthy and Ed or Joey, and who's that? Never heard of them. Don't know what you're talking about. We're just getting on. We're just doing our stuff. We're just living every day, and they don't. They're not interested in this minutiae of stuff that we've spent 15 minutes talking about.
You know, I went to that. John.
You know, I just think a lot of people just live their lives.
John, do you know that?
Because there's millions of them.
Can you hear me? I don't know. John, you know that? Do you know that B&B, that vegan B&B? What's it called? Fox. What's it called? The one in the Lake District.
Oh, Foxhall, yeah.
Foxhall, yeah, Foxhall. So it's like a vegan B&B. Yeah. I don't know if there's a bit of a delay there. It went weird on my side. But yeah, the owner of that, so she's been a vegan for, I don't know, decades, right? Like been around for a very, very long time. And I got talking to her about it, like, oh yeah, you've been vegan for decades. That's super interesting. So I guess you'll know these people that have also been vegan in the UK scene for decades. And I mentioned a couple names like Roger Yates and Ronnie Lee and the ALF. And she's looking at me like, no, I have no idea who these people are. I was like, so do you have like a community or like vegan community? And she's like, no, I've just been, she's been vegan the whole time, like 40 years or something, but just never, just by herself or her family, and just never doesn't even aware of like this kind of movement. And that blew me away. I was like, really, all these years, and you're just doing your own thing? You're not interested at all in like that? That
goes to show what you were saying there, Rams. It's like there are the type of person it seems to take to be vegan in this world where carnism is the dominant culture is someone who's just not bothered about being like a total recluse and just like living quite a sheltered existence. No offense to this woman, because I know that sounds almost kind of harsh, me using those words there, but in this case, it stands very true.
I thought you were describing me there for a second.
Well, or Cliff.
You know, I wouldn't say social recluse though, because I'd say the more that very tight knit, very, very close family unit with family friends. Like, so they weren't like completely isolated and don't speak to anybody. They just have their own little village, basically, and they're not interested in what's outside of that. That's the appearance I got anyway. You know, that kind of vibe I got.
It sounds like that sketch from the League of Gentlemen where, you know, you go into that shit. Are you local? And then they always end up kidnapping and torturing anyone who sort of comes from 3 miles outside the village. They called it was called the local shop, wasn't it? This is a local shop for local people.
We didn't burn him.
Yeah.
All right. Now, so let's get back onto some like of the agenda, and let's stop George from going doomy. Hopefully. Right. Here's one then. Here's a question for you. What's one moment or achievement in your activism this year that stood out to you?
Turning my brother vegan. There you go.
That's a pretty big moment. That was a pretty big moment.
10 years. Well, 10 years of me being vegan, and then obviously being my militant vegetarian phase.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, I didn't watch the video, but I these days I'm just doing transcripts of videos. I'm beyond watching videos. I've gone to like a next level at this point. I'm just using AI transcription. Tell me what happened. Done. And from your video, I saw that I read that he said, tell me if AI got this wrong, by the way. But I read that he said that for years he dismissed you as like a preachy vegan and wasn't interested.
No, that's actually wrong.
And then he said he thought you were preachy. Did he not? Did he not say that?
No. I actually, because they said, Mel and Steve asked him, was he preachy? And I said, it's okay if you want to slag me off. And he said actually that wasn't the case. Because I was so passionate about it, he actually respected what I said and everything. So
well, there's me. There's AI.
Got it wrong.
AI screwing me over, guys.
I think you need to find a new AI platform. Right?
Anyway, but like all in all, it was like you said earlier. That's what made me laugh. He said all it took was a trip to a farm, an undercover investigation, and a slaughterhouse to make him go vegan. Yeah, talk more about that anyway, Chris. Sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah, no worries. Well, actually, talking about that, like, yes, that's what it took. But we do actually speak about that at the end of the podcast we just released, where I was saying about finding what people's catalysts are. Like, I've been talking to my brother for years about this stuff. He's watched Dominion, he's done loads of stuff, and it just didn't do it for him. He needed to see it himself. And it kind of made me think, like, yeah, everyone does have that different click moment. People can switch off from stuff, and maybe people just need to see videos of animals that have been saved or cute animals. That might be their catalyst. Maybe they don't need to see a slaughterhouse or something like that. So it was quite interesting just to see that he needed that visual, like, you're here now, you can't deny it, and that worked for him. Maybe we need to start dragging all our family members.
What was he saying when he watched
day trips.
Dominion or whatever before? What would he say after watching it?
Because I didn't realize he had fully watched it until recently, so I'm not actually sure. But from what I can gather, he just kind of shut it out. He was just kind of like, that's disgusting, I don't want to think about it. And then he just kind of went back into his old ways, which I think is what happens quite regularly with people. They just think the way we were describing it is, it's like, I mean, to anyone who's been inside one of these places, it's the difference between going to the cinema and then seeing it in 4D IMAX with all these extra things. Like, it brings a whole other element than just watching it on a screen, because you only get snippets. You don't get the smells, the atmosphere. You can't see the emotions of these animals through a screen as much as you can in person. And I think that's what kind of did it, I think.
Right.
Could we just shout out it's Mel and Steve at this point? For anybody who doesn't follow them already, if you're in the chat, go follow it's Mel.
Oh, yeah. Go follow.
Awesome activists.
And also, please go follow Calvin as well, who came along
Calvin
with us.
JT, I think he has on Instagram.
Yeah, did some amazing photography for us. And obviously, go and follow my brother and give him some support, because he'd probably really appreciate that. Colin's Tea Room, as in just the letter T, not
what he has
tea.
like a tea. Okay, right.
No. He used to collect tarantulas. He used to have like thousands. He used to breed them and everything, but he's totally stopped that now. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is good. He kind of realised that I was speaking to him a lot about that, because I was kind of getting a bit annoyed with him being like, can you stop breeding animals, please? Like, there's enough that need rescuing in the world without you bringing more in. And that kind of sunk in. And he kind of completely cut back on all his reptiles and everything and stopped breeding them. So, yeah, it was good. But yeah, that was my big thing of the year anyway.
By the way, whoever's doing the really aggressive mouse movement, you're going to have to mute yourself while you do that, because literally everyone... Okay, James Hattersley, there you go.
That was me. I don't know what you were scrolling just then. It seemed like it was just page after page after page, like non-stop, just down.
Who still uses a mouse trackpad all the way? Come on.
He was typing in the link for the AI to follow along what had happened.
I got it so wrong. Would you like me to read that out and how wrong it got it? Because it is really bad. It said, Colin admitted to previously avoiding the topic due to emotional discomfort, which is what you said, right. Correct, and viewing his brother's activism as preachy, which is incorrect.
No, I'm pretty sure. I mean, if anyone wants to go watch the video, it's up now.
Well, just now. Like, let's go. Just to take a little hour break to see if he said that.
Everyone can watch it and then confirm it. But I'm pretty sure that it was me saying, "Oh, you can call me preachy if you want. I don't mind if you slag me off," and then he said no. So
maybe there's an Alexa in his house, and the AI has been listening to what he's actually been saying about him.
Just to let people.
He's gone and checked the logs from the CIA, because you're clearly registered with GCHQ and all the spy anti-animal activism groups. So maybe it knows a little bit more than you do.
Have you just run it through AI again?
Chris,
You just
listen,
went,
here, mate, you're full of it. AI was
Am I?
correct. Here's what happened.
Have you found the time code?
No, I've got the AI. Like I put the whole transcript in, so I went back to the transcript and said, "Tell me the parts about the preachy part." So it gave me them. So here's what happened. From a non-vegan perspective, how was it, or how did you view Chris and your family as a vegan? Talking to your family and yourself about veganism, did you view him as weird? Did you view him as preachy? Did you view him as a problem? And Colin says, "See, I would use the word preachy, but it's not really fitting because it wasn't. You can slag me off if you want. No, but it's not. It may not feel preachy now because of what you've experienced, but if you could put your mindset back to at the time, did it feel preachy pre your experiences? Maybe, yeah, maybe to a certain extent. I always saw how much you believed in it. Maybe that was the bit that took away the preachy part in it as such." So he did say that at times it was preachy. So AI was right.
That wasn't the main reason that your AI little software, Rams, hinged it upon that.
I mean, it kind of did.
Right, everyone just go and watch it anyway. So Melon's
yeah, everyone should go watch it. Yeah. That's stop relying on AI and just watch the video.
Can someone put the link to it in the chat?
I mean, that's just lazy. You're putting transcripts of people's videos into AI.
Bro, it's so much faster, and it allows me to get to the bottom of it, very quickly. It's like an hour, dude. I'm not gonna.
Time, Chris.
I can't sit and watch a whole hour. Do you mean, come on?
Let's watch it at double speed.
Yeah, that would be still half an hour. It's still a long time. I'm sorry. I feel that we've taken all
worth your time, David.
Yeah, of course. But I feel like we've taken all the thunder out of your big, amazing achievement by making jokes about James Hattersley scrolling and AI. So I apologize for that. It is a really cool thing, and it's cool that you documented it all. And it's cool that you guys were the first people to ever take someone who wasn't vegan into a farm undercover in the world ever. That's the bit that really stands out for me as the most impressive part of the whole thing.
I think what it was is, I mean, obviously it came across in the way you just said it, but it was more the fact that we haven't seen it ever filmed and documented in that kind of way. But then when you mentioned the VFC stuff and you said that the couple of people else, I was like, oh yeah, they kind of did that, didn't they? So maybe it wasn't, but it's worth going to watch anyway. And just so people know, I'm actually going to release. So obviously we've put all the parts out, but I'm going to release another version of this all as kind of like one documentary, which is more focused on, my brother and his journey, because there was a lot of bits kind of in between those things that were documented and stuff as well, which didn't kind of reach the video. So I'm going to kind of release it as a kind of one big video with lots of extra scenes and extra kind of info, more kind of following Colin on his journey kind of stuff.
That's a really good idea, by the way. Yeah, I mean, I was really happy when you said you were going to do that, because that is, in my opinion, the video that needs to be made now, one that ties in everything from start to finish. And if you can get it down to like 20 minutes max, I know it's going to be really hard. I think that's got a real potential of being like a key video that people can send to people to like, oh my God, this is the craziest story. Look at this guy went from, not being vegan to doing all of this to being, it's a cool story. And if you tease it throughout the video that, we don't know what happens, is he going to go vegan? What will he do? If you can keep that question throughout the whole thing, I'm telling you that's golden. It's golden content, and it could make a huge difference. So
we got some really good footage.
Yeah,
we've got some really good.
It makes it way easier to summarize on ChatGPT.
Also that.
But we've got this really cool that we did just after we went into the farm, where my brother his brain was like battling him. He even says like, look, I'm not going to say that I'm going vegan or anything, but like my mind is like telling me one thing and I want to do another thing. And you could see that internal conflict, and that didn't kind of get in the videos. And I thought that was a really kind of powerful moment in showing the mindset of someone who's just seen something so horrific and then having to kind of go, well, I've kind of got to do something about this. I can't ignore it. So that's where this other video that will go more into those kind of areas and stuff that didn't kind of make the other ones. The other ones were more focused on a non-vegan going to these places, where what I'm going to edit is more about my brother. Right. It's more about me and my brother. That's where the angle is going to go for this one.
That's a good idea. Yeah. That's a better idea probably. I think, because it's more personable, I suppose. Like I'm a vegan and I took my brother to, you know what I mean? Rather than like I took a non-vegan, which is which can be perceived as quite exclusionary. It's kind of almost non-vegan. I mean, everybody knows when like a lot of people who are vegan, when they say non-vegan, they mean it derogatory. It's derogatory. derogatory. That's the one, derogatory. It's not like a descriptive term. It's like these non-vegan. I took a non-vegan to this place. You know what I mean? So I think your version of it, if you can spin it that way, might appeal to a different audience, at least a totally different audience.
Because the whole reason we did it this way is because, you know, it was all being hosted on Mel and Steve's channel, and the reason that was decided is because my channel hasn't been active for ages.
Right. Yeah. No, it makes
we just
sense.
wanted people to see it, so it was more kind of like, let's do it. We'll host it on your channel, and obviously that was the better angle for them. They didn't have the family attachment
For sure. Yeah.
with Colin, so it was more about him being non-vegan. But
Yeah.
obviously, when I do it on mine, then we'll kind of spin that angle and give a new look to it.
No, it's exciting. Yeah. It'd be. I hope you can nail the shorter edit for sure. Like that's the core part of this. If it's longer, then the longer it gets, the less likely it is to take off, I think.
Well, I've just managed to get 8 years of footage down to 1 hour 45 from a film, so hopefully I can manage this.
Nice one.
David's not watching it anyway. He's just going to
Yeah, why does it matter? Waste of time.
Yeah.
It's awesome that your brother did that, by the way, because as activists, I mean, I'm sure some of us or most of us have been inside one of these places. We're driven to do it because we're trying to make change and make a difference and stuff. But your brother, to go into a farm like that, and I'm sure you weren't invited on by the farmer, is a pretty ballsy thing to do, to take that chance. So
yeah, I was really proud of him. I was proud of him for agreeing to do it, because most people just wouldn't. But he was just like, no. The reason he did it, which again kind of wasn't as mentioned within it, is a big reason he did it was for me. He was kind of like, well, you've been telling me about this for so many years. I feel I owe it to you to actually hear you out now. So that was a really nice thing for him to kind of do that. And then obviously it kind of brought him back, that connection with the animals and stuff. So it wasn't all about me. But yeah, and it was really nice just to kind of see that, even because so many people must feel really downhearted being like, oh, my family are never going to go vegan. I've been vegan for 20 years and they're still not changing. It kind of shows that it can still happen. If it goes 10 years down the line for me and he still did it, it can happen. But you just got to find that, whatever that click is for them as an individual. And that's obviously the difficult part.
Just take them out in the dead of night in all black and force them to go into a pig farm. That'll do it.
I mean, it works. So,
you found this is what we have to do. We have to scale this up, right? We gotta get this global.
Coach trips.
Man, does anyone else have a moment? I mean, we won't go through everybody, but that level. Let's go that level, like as the same level as Chris. Like something that's really like from last year that was just like, this is the biggest thing to me, and I want to talk about it.
Nothing.
I don't have anything that level. I have something that I can tie this question and last question together, but it's going to be like a wet blanket compared to his.
Oh, okay, all right. You don't want to do it. I mean, you kind of.
Well, I can do it.
It's tantalizing
but if someone's got
now.
something bigger, they can slam it on the table.
But I feel like now you've kind of built this up. Like if you'd have said nothing, then I wouldn't have been interested. But now you've kind of teased it. I want to know.
Well, so because you were introing me that I do, for anyone watching that doesn't know, which is probably most people, I do a channel on antinatalism, and one of the things I've been trying to do, and I've had some success with it, is trying to get people from that world to come over to the vegan world and try and have an influence that way and get more people to be vegan. Because I see it as an antinatalist thing to do as well. Because if you're paying for loads of animals to be bred into existence, then you're not really standing by your ethics, in my opinion. So I've had some success in that, and I actually didn't do this on purpose, but I released a video on New Year's Day about why antinatalists should be vegan, which is the start of Veganuary as well. So that was just that was pure by accident. That was just when it was scheduled. And I've had people reach out to me, and we have like a local group in London where we do meetups and stuff. And there have been people who have come to that group with not really thinking about veganism before, but coming because they share this other thing in common. But because there's a lot of crossover often, there's vegans in that group, including me, obviously, and I bring it up. It's meant that there's a little sort of like pipeline to veganism in that world, which is quite nice to see, and it's growing. There's no way to there's no metrics or anything, but that's just quite a nice thing that it's been growing over 2024, partly because of my influence, but obviously I can't claim it all. But that's quite cool. George will have played a part as well. with the hatred he's been spewing.
Yes, I can.
That's cool. That's cool that you're having that influence. It's a big deal.
I have a
Just by
small
the
one.
Lawrence. Yeah, sorry, Cliff.
No, you go first.
I was just going to say, just by the by, Lawrence, I don't think any of us want any of your wet blankets. Thank you.
Go on in, Cliff. What were you going to say?
So
Brace the tone, Cliff. Bring the tone back, man.
it's, at the beginning of last year, 2024, spoke to a young lad on the street who was working on a dairy farm. Long story short, he messaged me about 2 weeks later to say he'd given up his job on the dairy farm. He said that he was blind to the cruelty that was right in front of him. He'd taken another job on an arable farm or a crop farm. And then he messaged me like 2 months ago to say he still watches all my videos, he supports my work, and now he is a Patreon supporter as well of mine. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's really cool, man. It's really cool. Big turnaround. You didn't someone come to you? Was it this year? Was it last year? Sorry, or the year before? Didn't someone come and give you like gifts in the street, Cliff?
Oh yeah, that was a lady. I still have to share that video because it's so long. She talked to me for ages. She went away, and then I was talking to somebody else, and she came back in the middle of it, and I seen her coming, and I was like, "You coming back?" And she goes, "Yeah, I want to ask you about fishing." And I was like, "No, fishing's not good either." Spoke to her some more. She asked about cheese and dairy products. I sent her off down to there's a little health food shop near me that's almost exclusively vegan. They do like vegan cheese and stuff. And then she came back again, and she showed me all the cheese and stuff that she'd bought, all the vegan products. And she bought me a wreath as well. And she said, "You gave me a gift today, and I want to give you a gift as well." So she gave me a wreath that she bought. And then as she walked away, she said, "And I want to gift the animals with their lives from now on." So that was pretty cool too.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
really
it's really nice. It's really nice. And it's also like a really key lesson that, getting out there, talking to people, doing activism, it does make a difference. And not only that, you can get some really cool stuff. So that, it's a win-win, right?
That's
Not
why
the
we
first
do
time.
outreach for the free.
It's not the first time. Like every now and again, somebody will go away and buy me something. Like people have bought me like little mugs with animals on them and stuff. in the past.
Cliff, you should do what these like OnlyFans girls do and just put the list of things up that you want, and then people can just
Amazon
like.
wish list. Yeah.
Like a wedding list.
You could have a QR code, and all the vegans will think it's Dominion, but when people actually scan it, it just goes to your Amazon wish list.
My address on it and stuff if you want to post it to me.
Oh, that is great.
That's
Honestly, though, like on a serious note, though, I think it's not a completely terrible idea, but not for things that you wait, hold up. Let me clarify what I'm saying. Not for things that you want, for things that you need. So, for example, if you are an activist and you're just starting out, or you don't have a lot of money for equipment, it's not a bad idea to have a page, maybe on your, with a link tree or whatever, that says things I need, and then it links to an Amazon wish list, because you don't know who's going to find that. And yeah, okay, so imagine a new camera is like, imagine you want to get a really good new camera and it's €3,000 or £3,000. You might think that's a lot of money, and it is a lot of money to a lot of people, but it's also not a lot of money to a lot of people. And so if you manage to find one of those people who's actually like £3,000 to them is like £10 to us, they see it, they happen to click the link, you never know, right? But that's not going to happen if you don't have that stuff in a place where everybody can see it. So I think that's not even a completely bad idea, as long as it's stuff you need and stuff that benefits your work versus stuff that you just want.
What we need is more money in the movement and more vegans to be rich.
Well, yeah. All right, James Aspey, didn't realize he was in the house. And we're going to do that through our new crypto that we've all been talking about. We've been working on this project for a while now. All seven of us. It's backed by We the Free. It's the actual organization, not James. The full organization is backing it. It's amazing. It's called. Now this is all a joke, guys. We're not doing that. We're not doing a crypto scam. All right. So yeah, no more crypto scams.
Well, David, what about you? What's your big thing of the year been? You haven't answered the question.
Well, I am starting a crypto. That is like no. Okay, no. So no, my big thing of the year. That's a really difficult question. I prefer just asking you guys. Okay, big moment or achievement from last year, 2024. I don't know. I mean, in terms of like actually making change with people, I've had a couple of conversations that were pretty stand out to me as, and it doesn't. I mean, obviously, one or two conversations doesn't change the world, but I suppose it gives you more hope, and that's what we've been kind of getting into. But yeah, I mean, there was one guy I spoke to, started off, the videos on YouTube, he started off saying things like, oh, I love meat, and making weird faces and being a bit of a troll. But then by the end of the conversation, he was pretty much crying. Like he was literally on the brink of like a full on meltdown because we'd started talking about this dog that he used to have that died. And after that, he just had this full transformation from being a bit of a meat troll to being actually understanding exactly what I was talking about. And you never know if people are messing with you, you know what I mean? Like, especially young people, but it didn't feel like he was. And it would have been a very good acting from him if he was messing with me. But the, pessimistic side of me does worry, okay, maybe he was a troll. But if you watch the video, I think you can tell it seems legit. And so that was only about a 10-minute conversation, 15 minutes. And to go from being a bit silly and to go into almost crying and then coming round and understanding that was pretty cool. Yeah, I think that was a standout one for me.
Yeah, I think I AI'd that one, the transcript of it.
I knew you were waiting for something. No, that was really cool. Yeah, that was in that was I think some of you guys were there. It was a
We the Free, wasn't it? I actually saw the video. I actually did watch it.
Bournemouth. Yeah. It was in Bournemouth. That's the one. Who was there? Were any of you there? Cliff, weren't you there, Cliff?
I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Was that a young lad with like blondie hair from memory?
No, he was black. He was a young black guy. Oh. Yeah, and
yeah, he's in the thumbnail.
Yeah, he's the thumbnail because he's like almost crying in the thumbnail, and it was. It looks, and I'm kind of in the thumbnail. I'm leaning in, so it looks like I'm making him cry, and I think that's why that video did a little better than usual. But yeah, but no, in real life, it was just really calm words that made him almost cry, which is pretty cool. It's a good way to have people, change. This is why we definitely, Cliff, you're really good at this. You don't shy away from emotion. You show it. Especially like I don't mean emotion as in anger emotion. I think it's good to keep that on the DL as much as we can. But Cliff's really good at showing like emotional emotion, like the sad emotion and heartfelt emotion. And I think that brings out that same feeling in other people, even strangers. I've noticed Cliff is probably the best I've ever seen at doing that. I still struggle I have this every now and then somebody will have a heart-to-heart with me. It seems like every conversation Cliff has, almost, someone's ready to just pour their heart out to him. So I don't know what you do, mate.
Thing, man.
Yeah, you're really good at it, man.
But it's not a factor, and I'm doing it on purpose. Like, I am literally stopping myself from crying a lot because I feel very empathetic with animals. So,
and how else is he going to get all the free gifts?
Sob story, Cliff.
Next he's going to be holding up pictures of kids in famine.
Oh my god, that's brilliant! I realize now that's what it's all about. That's what Cliff's been doing this whole time. just almost cry, and they'll bring you a wreath.
I think Cliff just has like a cut up bunch of onions below.
Oh man!
I'm actually starting an eBay page where I'm going to sell all the stuff I've got.
All the onions.
just got a full-on business here going on, buy and sell business. All right, cool. Let's do another topic then, because I think we've done this one.
None of us have achieved anything apart from okay, so let's move on very quickly.
This one is more about the obstacles in 2024. So this is a pretty big question, actually. What do you think was the biggest obstacle for the vegan world, let's say, or specifically vegan activism in 2024? And how did the movement address it from your perspective? Or did the movement address it at all, I guess?
Seems like a George question.
I think a big obstacle potentially for the animal rights movement was actually restriction on freedom of speech. And I think that Elon's takeover of Twitter, now X, will potentially be a good thing for animal rights. I know that when you log into there now, it looks like a bit of a shit show, but I think it's probably better for us now than it was before. And I just think the general, in the battle of ideas, you want there to be less big tech restriction on stuff. And I think the last year or two has just been revolutionary in that regard. Whether we like certain opinions or not, ultimately it's still that's the cost that we pay for living in a society where we can exchange ideas. So for me, I would just list that.
I think I agree to a large extent on that. It wasn't last year that Elon bought Twitter, was it? Wasn't it like a couple of years ago?
It was probably like 2022, maybe. Yeah. But there was stuff going in the motions while he was taking it over, and now I think it's why, as I say, it looks like a bit of a shit show when you log into it now, and it's just a big fight and a lot of people just spewing stuff at one another. I would rather the X that we have now than the very much restricted Twitter and even Facebook now. Have you noticed that Facebook has kind of mirrored X's, kind of more lax attitude towards speech? Because I mean, even a few years back, Facebook was terrible, especially for vegans. I got banned so many times on Facebook for saying stuff. Or just for advocating in a very passionate way. You could you could compare, the animal Holocaust to the Nazi Holocaust or something like that and get banned for that. And now I don't think I've had a Facebook ban in literally years, which is crazy because I was getting banned left, right, and center all the time back in the day. So I think there's just been a kind of a cultural revolution in that kind of sense with the big tech stronghold that there's been on speech.
Yeah, I think I agree with the free speech thing being definitely a problem. I don't know about Facebook, but yeah, definitely Twitter did solve that problem to a large extent. I think that's been an issue it's been a bigger issue for a lot of activists in states, especially in the USA, where they've started to put in more stringent rules on the things you can and can't show. For example, if you go undercover and get footage, they've got these laws now that stop you from showing that footage. And some other countries have not countries actually, but other states have been putting in anti-terrorism laws that now apply to animal rights activists. And there's some other stuff going on around the world that's been a big problem. But unfortunately, I think that the movement's response to this the quickest part of the question is, how did the movement address this? I feel like the large parts of the movement have addressed this by what appears to be by demanding more limitations on free speech. I've noticed some sizable amount of vegans seem to want certain people to be shut down or stopped from saying things, but don't seem to understand that that is exactly what's happening to many vegans. And you can't have one rule for one and one rule for another. It's either it's an open platform where anything apart from instigating violence, for example, or calling for violence to somebody and things. There are certain limitations that I think we can all agree on, no matter where you stand politically. But then I do feel like too many vegans seem to think that shutting someone down for saying something offensive is a good thing. But it's like offensiveness is subjective. So if I come along and say we should all be vegan, somebody might find that offensive. And then what, do they get grounds to shut me down the same way you shut down this person that said something about some other issue? It's right. A really bad thing. And I wish our movement would do better at saying, look, that person's total piece of shit. I hate them. I hate what they're saying. They're disgusting. But let it stay there and let's show why they're disgusting in the comments and let's make everybody aware of how disgusting they are versus let's ban them forever and make sure nobody hears them, because they'll do that to us too. They'll make sure nobody hears us,
I just want to give an example of that as well, David, for people in the live chat who might not understand exactly what you mean about how a vegan message could be offensive. Oh, what about kindness to animals is offensive?
Right.
Let's look at both sides of the political spectrum with this regard. You get leftists who will take offense to the idea that indigenous people should be vegan, or people have no excuse not to be vegan even in food deserts or something like that. They could, by their logic, just find that deeply offensive that we say that they should be and shut us down for that. And then with people on the Christian right, for example, if we say, well, actually this verse is a load of bullshit or something like that in your holy book, or your God doesn't exist or whatever it is, again, that is by the logic that we should just shut down any kind of speech that could be offensive. They would have right to shut us down for that. In fact, it was in Facebook's community, whatever protection policy, I forget what it was called. I think very part of it was or is something like, mocking other people's religion. I mean, a lot of our advocacy could literally come under that. Halal slaughter is barbaric. Jesus did not feed people with fish. That's a load of bollocks, or whatever it is. So it absolutely can limit what we say if we have this platform that these vegans who just aren't getting the message that you mentioned, David. That's not the internet that we want, is what I'm saying. Is the short-winded way of what we need to say here.
Does everyone agree with that? Or disagree?
Pretty much, yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how much impact long-term vegans being able to speak more on Twitter is going to do, because it seems like it's just descended into a bit of a cesspool. So and alternatives are coming up. I don't know how. I mean, only the future will tell. But I had two. But I prefer obviously vegans being able to say stuff on there than not being able to say stuff on there.
Yeah.
I had two things. One was stuff that has happened, and one is something that I kind of see coming down the line. So the first thing that has happened is I think we've all spoken about it before, or at least been involved in conversations, is topics outside of veganism causing discord within veganism. Obviously, we all know a big example that's happened. Well, it happened not last year, the year before, but obviously it was very divisive over the past year. And that only seems to have a negative impact on the animal rights movement and people not being able to get along and getting divided over things that actually are not, it's not that they're not important, but they're just not relevant to animals. Often, maybe there may be some nuances of relevancy, but
I'm laughing because I know exactly what people would say when you say that, Lawrence. I know exactly what they would say when you say it's not relevant to animals.
Okay, well, so yeah. Anyway, so they can say what they want, But anyway, so that I don't think anyone can say that that's had a positive influence in the animal rights movement, whatever side you're on, right? And it doesn't really matter for this point what side you're on. Like both sides have, been throwing stuff at the other side, and it just doesn't seem like it's had positive stuff at all. Not even just for that example, but like there's been many examples. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything on that. I have the second thing that is maybe coming down the line, which is there seems to be a shift to the right in a lot of countries in politics. And I don't think that is going to bode well for veganism generally, but also specifically, whatever people think of climate change, wherever they are on that conversation, there's a lot of funding, or there has been a lot of funding around trying to address climate change. And some of that has been going into things like alternative proteins, which has been very useful for animals. That funding might start to dry up. I've no idea if that is going to be the case. But when you have figures like Trump or whoever coming in who are going to probably be less favorable to putting money into that sort of stuff or supporting those sort of treaties, the funding for stuff that's adjacent to veganism may start to dry up. Who knows if that will happen? I don't know, but I see that potentially coming down the pipeline.
But we also have Vivek and Tulsi appointed as part of Trump's government, who are both, Vivek is a vegetarian because he says he disagrees with slaughtering sentient beings for culinary pleasure. And then Tulsi, I believe, I don't know if she's plant-based or vegan, but she doesn't eat animal products as far as I know. So that could be something positive, I don't know.
You got JD Vance's wife as well, who's vegetarian, and they've apparently there's some ethical, there's mostly religious reasons, but apparently there's some ethical reasons in there as well. So there's a good influence on him as well, and he's in a very, very powerful position.
Yeah.
But and the thing is, part of this question was, how has the movement addressed these things? And I've seen some really positive. Lawrence, you sent me this the other day of somebody who's like a lobbyist for pro-animal lobbyist, who has already started to work with, and there's groups of people who are starting to look at the ways to appeal to this new conservative government in the USA, because there are angles to go at here that are pro-animal, not necessarily because they're pro-animal, but the actions help animals. For example, Vivek and Elon Musk and Trump are all talking about how they're going to drain the swamp, right? Cut out all these people who are making loads of money from sitting around doing nothing and pretending they have a job, for example, or pretending they're part of the government is needed, or pretending their businesses need subsidies and things like that. Well, if the right people get in the right places and highlight to them like, hey, look, animal agriculture basically doesn't exist without subsidies. It is completely inefficient. It needs massive reform, and you need to start taking the money away so that they can reform it into a way. Well, that's going to mean a significant reduction, isn't it? They can't operate the way they are now without the subsidies, right? It's not going to happen. So there are some people out there who, in the animal rights movement, involved in politics, who are going, okay, great, these are some good pain points we can push on, and we can start these things changing. It's got nothing to do with animals and animal ethics, but it still impacts animals, and it can be a good thing. So that's the way the movement should deal with this, in my opinion. It's like, you can't change it. Like, what are you going to do? Not do any work with politics until there's a left-wing government back in again? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You've got to adapt, and you've got to say, okay, then fine, here's where we are now. How can we continue to make an impact with these new guys, even though we might not agree with them as much as we did the last guys, right? It's like, we got to figure that out.
Yeah, well, if anything, if there's a government that comes into power that you think is going to be less sympathetic to animals, then you should be trying to engage with them more, if anything.
Yeah,
if there's a government that you think is going to be more pro-animal, then obviously don't take your foot off the pedal, but you're probably going to have more sympathetic audience there, right? So, yeah,
definitely.
I think there were two quite significant incidents this past year that might have helped galvanize an animal rights message within certain right-wing circles. It hasn't picked up fast enough. It hasn't been good enough. Still, the right is largely, just as the left is, anti-vegan. But we obviously had the horrific case of Peanut and Fred happen last year. And that was a big, whether some of, Musk's messaging about it was disingenuous or not. But we saw some quite positive stuff happen on X and other platforms in conservative circles as a result of that, because they started to associate the murder of certain animals, these individuals with unique personalities. They love Peanut and Fred, with leftist government overreach or something like that. Now, obviously, that's not exactly the exact message that we want to push that veganism is. But in any case, it kind of, I saw Vivek actually post right after that happened something about, one day animal rights will be a conservative talking point, and I'm totally here for it. So that was positive. And he's in a big influential position. And then, obviously, this is not particularly true of the UK, because Christianity isn't taken that seriously here, even among conservative circles. But in the US,
even among Christians,
we had Cowspiracy released at the cinemas, and it's now available to watch online. And that is just an absolutely incredible tool that I think, if Christians weren't so bloody stubborn and would actually please fucking watch this documentary, that would be great. So we actually need to start sharing that around with the Christians that are so hard to get through to about that. But those were two significant things that happened in the last year that I think can just be the start of a cultural shift with the right.
Yeah, definitely. Does anybody else have any other interesting obstacles that and how the movement dealt with them they want to get into, or would you want to move on to the next thing?
I think I probably just think... Go on, JP.
No, go on, James.
I was just going to invite a little bit of discussion, I guess, about one kind of hot topic over the last year has been like infighting within the movement. And I guess specifically, I've seen a lot of tribalism. And in terms of what's happening about that, you know, We the Free gave a talk at that conference. I know, David, you gave a talk, I think, International Animal Rights Conference. Just do people think it's getting like worse or better, or do people think we've got the tools to deal with it? Like, what's going on?
Have you noticed, James, that a lot of people, a lot of maybe the most toxic individuals from the past few years seem to have dissipated away from the animal rights movement? I don't know if that's because they're now ex-vegan or just they got bored or something. Me and Rams actually did a stream about this a few years back about why certain people are just so quiet now. But in a certain sense, I think it's better than it was definitely in previous years. It still exists. We still have infighting. We still have a lot of the, you know, the political stuff going on. Lawrence mentioned it a moment ago over a hugely hot topic. But I think there's less of it in the movement than there was before.
I agree. I think there's less of it right now, but I think that's only because there isn't a flashpoint for anything to happen. There's just going to be another one. I don't know if there is any getting around it. I think when you have a movement, not that the animal rights movement is necessarily big compared to other movements, but it's very complex and has a lot of people and organizations involved. When you have something that complex as an ecosystem of people and organizations, there's no way you can like unify it, you know, with any sort of coherent structure, because people are going to want to do different things. And just given basic human psychology, and look at all the other movements that have way more funding, you know, they also suffer from this sort of thing, you know, infighting. So I don't know. I'm kind of pessimistic about it. I think it's just going to keep. I think that like those who have any sort of influence in the movement, just keep on doing what you're doing. Just try not to get distracted by it. You know, don't get sucked in by it. If people want to bicker about things, then and not be productive, then let them do that. You know, they can. You know, what is the phrase? Play with themselves in the corner or whatever. But like the people who actually want to get stuff done, just keep doing what you're doing, you know, and just try and let it not get you down and not distract you.
I'm curious actually, Lawrence. I can think of historic examples of movements, huge movements having infighting. For example, with the civil rights movement, you had, you know, kind of the Martin Luther King crowd, and then you had the X crowd, and they didn't tend to like each other that much, and they both were doing it the wrong way. But at the moment, aside from our movement,
Feminism, trans.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, we don't have to get into the topics, obviously, but that is like one massive movement that has been completely divided the world over.
Yes, because you have the TERFs, as they call them, and then you have the pro-trans. Yeah. Within the feminist stuff. True. I guess that's one example currently going on of a movement where there's a lot of vicious infighting over that kind of stuff. Yeah, true.
So I think on this topic, James, to answer you, it does feel like things are better. And I think the reason it feels like these things are better is that for one reason or another, the people who have the biggest issues with other people, other vegans, the vegans that have the biggest issues with other vegans, for one reason or another, they're not acting in the ways they used to act. I don't think everything's been resolved. And, you know, for example, all the people who've come after me, I've got a whole video about this, guys. If you want to go watch it, just type in International Animal Rights Conference on YouTube and you'll see the account and my videos there. You can go watch it. But basically, there's a lot of stuff that happened to me I go through in that video. But I don't think, it's not like all those people who said those horrible things about me or did those horrible things to me, like campaigns and whatnot. It's not like, I don't think they all suddenly agree with me or like me. But for some reason, they stopped. And they stopped coming after me. They stopped coming after anybody, actually. You just don't see it anymore. So I don't know if that's maybe because maybe they don't fully agree, but maybe they figured out, actually, do you know what? I have more in common with that person than I have that's not in common. Maybe maybe I should focus my efforts on someone who's like truly evil versus someone who just has one or two things I don't like. Maybe they came to sense and reason and realize it's not a reason to come and publicly try and destroy someone's life just because they said a thing I don't particularly like. Maybe it's another reason. I think I agree with what's been said already in that I don't think the problems have gone away. I just think that right now people don't have a lot of will to make them bigger deals. But like Lawrence said, the flashpoint could come along and then all of a sudden they're reinvigorated to come out and do all of this kind of really horrible public stuff again and cause loads of, hostility and stuff. I hope not, but yeah, I mean, it's not technically, I don't see it. It's not really infighting if people just have really passionate beliefs that they want to argue about. I don't see that as infighting. Infighting to me is when they start literally trying to say, you shouldn't support him. He's a piece of crap. And there's putting posts up, making videos and telling everybody you're evil. That to me that's what I would say is more infighting rather than debate or,
And I think
do you think
that's a
these
really
people...
important distinction. Go on, Cliff.
No, you go. Go on.
I think that's a really important distinction to make between people just, raising concerns or issues, or people obviously pointing out things that need to improve or change. And I guess it becomes infighting at the point where coalitions form and kind of groups divide and have their own in-group, out-group kind of hostilities, right? And I've definitely still witnessed a lot of that happening this year, but probably a little bit less than the year before or the year before that.
Right.
So maybe we're becoming more equipped at how to deal with it, but it still is a major kind of drain on the movement's resources. So
Definitely.
And I guess it must still be a big issue. You gave a talk on it this year, David, and so did we the Fray, right?
Yeah, for sure. Wait, Lawrence, let Cliff go, man. Cliff wanted to go before.
Yeah.
That's okay. I was just going to say, I think, in years gone past, we all know that cancel culture was atrocious. 5 years ago, it was at an all-time. I would say 5 years ago, it was ridiculous levels. But these people maybe have realized now their goal is to cancel you. They want you to disappear, right? And many people have left the movement because of them.
It's true.
But if you show them that you're not going anywhere, that you're going to stick around and you're going to keep fighting for animals, well then they go very quiet because they're not having any success. They're basically just chirping in the corner over here. Just ignore them. I think there's an old saying: it's you'll never be criticized by anybody that's doing more than you. So it's a very true thing. A lot of these people seem to be their goals to cancel activists left, right, and center, and just stick around. And
what's interesting, Cliff? What's interesting, Cliff, is what you're describing is literally. It was one of the talks that I went to last year. One of the conferences, someone was giving a talk about why movements fail, and one of the main reasons movements fail is because there's a lack of perceived progress. So there may be progress, but if it doesn't feel like there are wins, if it doesn't feel like there are progress, people just get disillusioned and they disappear. And what you're describing is basically, you're saying that when people start these horrible campaigns against you, if you give them reactions, if you give them what they want, they'll feel progress, and so they'll be bolstered to continue. But if you just completely ignore them and just keep going, eventually, like all movements will, they'll crumble because there's no progress. There's no reason to continue. They're just hitting a brick wall and they shift and they'll move somewhere else. So that's actually really interesting the way you put it, and that's kind of how it sounded to me. Yeah,
because in the past there's been hate campaigns. I'm not going to mention them specifically, but in the animal rights movement, there was pages created, people, I'm going to say creating cartoon figures and stuff of people and all that. You remember all that crap, right? That was vindictive at one point, but most of the people involved in that are still here, still doing activism, and the people who were doing the shit have disappeared.
It's true.
That is a very good observation. Well,
still happening for VCO though, isn't it?
Say again.
Still happening for VCO.
Camp out is vegan camp out is actually a big thing for a lot of people, and it's a real
target.
It's a real shame. I want to say something actually now while we're here, and I think maybe I could clip this out at some point, but I've been trying to figure out where's the best place to say it, and maybe I'll do it with camp out at some point, make it an obvious thing. But one of the biggest and major critique of them has been, this is Vegan Camp Out, by the way, is a festival in England, and I want to, this to me is, it has movement wide implications. This is like affecting the global movement, and I'll explain how this is affecting it. It affects animals in a big way. So long story short, the Vegan Camp Out is a big festival, 7,000 people, has had 15,000 in the past, but they've downsized for this year. And they've got a venue, and it's land, right? So pretty much all land in the UK is owned by or involved in some kind of non-vegan activity, whether it be hunting, farming, whatever, or the owners are hunters, the owners are farmers. That's land in the UK. Any land that's big enough to host 7,000 people with proper plumbing and electricity and all the stuff you need, it's going to be owned by, operated by, or have something that's not vegan nearby. And that's just kind of the way it is, right? Now, in their case, they've managed to navigate this in a really good way. They've managed to avoid quite a lot of that, but it is still technically owned by somebody who hunts and has farms. The land itself is operated by a vegetarian who's actually very empathetic to the festival, but the guy right at the top who owns the place is still one of these people. And the arguments that people have been making is that a vegan event shouldn't operate in that way. You shouldn't go there. If you go there, it's just a party. You shouldn't do that. How are you giving money to this landowner just for a party? And here's how this implicates the whole movement. Here's how this implicates animals worldwide. Because if we are going to say that you can't go to a vegan festival because it's held on land that is owned by a hunter or a farmer, then you also can't go to the cinema, because not only is the cinema not vegan in any way, shape or form, it has plenty of, pigs in the hot dogs and, dairy and all the different things there. So that's off the cards immediately. But even if it were a vegan cinema, it's most likely going to be a land that's either privately owned by someone who's not a vegan or publicly owned by a government. And guess what governments own a lot of? Land. And guess what they put on that land most of the time? Farms, animal farms. And so the other venues that other festivals have been using in the UK, one of them is held at like a manor of sorts, like a manor area, and it's run by the local council. That local council owns acres and acres of farmland. There's literally no way around it. So if we go down that logic to its full conclusion, here's what we're saying. To be a vegan today means that you can't go to the cinema, you can't go bowling, you can't do anything at all that is outside of your immediate needs. So yeah, you need food, you need water, but any leisure activity, out, can't do any of it. Your friends are going out for a drink at the bar, can't do it. The bar's not vegan, and also it's on land that isn't vegan. You literally can do nothing. That's the only way you're going to be a vegan. If we go down that road, you see how this implicates the whole world, and you see how this is going to have such a negative impact for animals that it's unquantifiable how bad this is as an image, and how it will literally just not work. And this is what Camp Out's dealing with. This is what the Vegan Camp Out's dealing with. And it frustrates me to no end to see them have to do this and have to deal with all this crap, and how people don't realize that what they're doing is creating a form of veganism that literally nobody is going to do. And then what does that do to our movement, How does that affect animals? Very negatively, I think.
Yep, 100% agree with you. I think it's ridiculous. People's standards that they're putting on this festival, which they don't hold for any other festival. They don't hold it for, right? I mean, the funny thing is, I've seen people slag off Vegan Camp Out, and they've had photos of them at a completely non-vegan festival, which is 100% owned by farmers. And I'm like, so how does that work?
Glastonbury's set on a dairy farm.
Yeah, I'm not going to name who those people are, but I've literally seen it. And what people are failing to what people are also failing to kind of see is, the amount of money that's coming into the movement, the amount of networking that's being done, the vegans that are being made, the fact that we're taking up we're taking up an event space, which a non-vegan festival would be there, making money for non-vegan companies or anything. There's actually so many pros that people are just completely just missing, and all they're focused on is, but a non-vegan somewhere along the lines is going to get, some money. They're ignoring the fact that Vegan Camp Out also have non-vegan security. They also have non-vegan staging, non-vegan sound guys. There's so many other.
Don't give them any more ammo, Chris.
The thing is, though, Chris, is like
even watching this stream.
The thing is, Chris, is like it's
unrealistic to expect that, because it just doesn't exist.
Of course. But even if, Chris, even without everything you just said, like, oh, imagine if Camp Out literally didn't create vegans, didn't raise money for charity. It was just purely to make money out of serving vegan food and having some vegan bands or whatever, and that was it. It still would be significantly leagues better than going to the cinema and giving your money to a cinema or to a bowling alley or to a bar. Leagues better. Take the money you would spend at all those places and go to the vegan camp out. That's what I would say. If you that in a world of entertainment, in a world where you're trying to have ethical entertainment, that is literally the best place for you to put your money. Vegan cafes, vegan restaurants, vegan events. It's always going to be leagues better than the non-vegan versions of those things. But then that doesn't mean that I think everybody who goes to a non-vegan cafe is evil or something like that, because I don't think it works like that. I think we're purchasing vegan items from non-vegan businesses. I see that as a good thing. I also see it as a good thing to purchase vegan items from vegan businesses. But to say that it's not good to purchase a vegan item from a vegan business, but it's okay to go to the non-vegan cinema, the non-vegan event is mind-boggling to me. I'm trying to get my head around where these people are coming from, and I've really tried, but it just feels like it's misinformation and bad logic that's causing all these problems, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just an argument that's come from emotion, and I understand that. When there's stuff going on, you do, especially if there's hunting and stuff like that, it isn't a very emotional thing, and I get that, but they're just thinking from that emotional point. They're not looking at the big picture as such, because like an argument I used when they had the estate is everyone was kind of being but they do pheasant hunting or whatever, they hire out some of the land, people do pheasant hunting, and I'm like, yeah, but they also host weddings that serve hog roasts and stuff. Why is no one talking about the weddings and stuff, all those animals that are being killed for this celebration? Why isn't
in fact
that
it would be
a problem?
more animals?
Yeah, course, it would be. There'd probably be, a few pheasants killed, in one respect, and then, catering for 250, 300 guests, all non-vegan food. Like there's no balance there. It's just, and like I said, it's from emotion, because people can see that pheasant being shot and they kind of be, oh my God, that poor bird or anything, but they're ignoring the bird that are being served up to all the people at the weddings and everything, because they're so used to living in a non-vegan world and seeing non-vegan food. And I think that's what it comes down to. I think people need to give Vegan Camp Out a break. Like they really do. Like, for sure. It's getting a bit much.
We have on the topic of food in a good way, vegan food. We have a super chat from Chip. You guys know Chip?
Hey,
that Chip guy? Yeah. Awesome. Go follow him if you don't. And he says,
Didn't he win an award?
Of course, yes. Yeah. He won the most improved I gave him? I think I gave him the most improved award. Because he went from because when I first started watching his activism, he was really good, but he was a little nervous and a little unsure at times, and kind of like we all are, when we start filming ourselves. And then I caught some of his more recent stuff, and it's like, Jesus Christ, he got from there to there in like a year. It's insane. Like he just got so much more confident and so good and so like, live, dude. Like doing this stuff live, that's insane. Like you can't edit the video, you can't make a mistake, like you can't. It's just all very real time. Like I love that. It's so he got most improved award. And he's asking a question for everybody here. He wants to know, what is your favorite vegan dish? Awesome activist panel.
But actually, David, it's what is your favorite vegan dish? Awesome activist panel.
Questionable.
I think Clif Grant is my favorite vegan dish.
When's the calendar coming out, Cliff?
The calendar.
It's January. We're all waiting for it.
You mean the naked one? Yeah.
No, the clothed one. We want the fully clothed one. Of course, the naked one, bro.
I'm waiting for all your pictures to come through. So,
who wants? I'll go first on this one. Mine's.
Chris sent me a picture, but it wouldn't fit in there.
Chris, oh really? Well, we already have one of Lawrence actually as well, don't we? We have.
We do. Yeah.
So that's all good to go. All right, I'm gonna go my favorite vegan dish first. So mine is mine's burritos. I love burritos. Big fan of my own, not from any brand or anything like that. Just my own homemade burritos, beans. If I don't want it if I want it to be healthy, I just have like beans and rice and lettuce and stuff like that. And if I want it to be a little, and tofu is pretty healthy as well. Seitan as well can be done pretty pretty healthily. If I want it to be like nasty junky, then I'll go and buy some stuff from the shop, like some prepackaged vegan meaty stuff, some vegan cheese, and all the vegan sour cream stuff like that. Get it all fatty and juicy and tasty. Depends on the style of burrito I'm going for, but yeah, burritos, that's my number one.
Mine is super specific, but I love. Has anyone had the Bosch Seaside Pie?
Oh yes,
No.
It's super good. So it's obviously it's the vegan equivalent of a fish pie, so they've called it the Seaside Pie. And they, it's like seaweed capers to get and vinegar to get the sort of ocean taste or whatever, and it's just insane. It's just like I don't know how to big it up.
So
but
I'm gonna have to cook that
Really
later.
selling it, bro.
they should hire me.
Yeah, you being the ad. I don't really know how to describe it. It's my favorite, but it's kind of like a fish pie, kind of, but not because it's vegan. Yeah, buy it. Yeah, very Ricky Gervais, that I think style of ad.
Exactly, yeah.
Mine's easy. I'd go for Waga's. I think it's called curry burrito. It's like a ramen with tofu. It's insanely good.
Yeah, Waggers is always good.
Nice.
I don't really know mine. I'm struggling to think. I'm kind of weird in that I don't really have favorites of things. Like I don't really have a favorite color.
I know what yours
don't-
is.
Do you?
Who has a favorite color beyond?
I know what Chris's favorite food is.
No, I want to
Yeah.
see if you know. What
Favourite
do you think my favorite is?
Your favorite food, bro. You wear a T-shirt of your favorite food on most days. Huel.
I don't have Huel though. I got the T-shirt when I got ordered some ages ago, and it's a nice T-shirt.
Okay, all right. We'll come back to you then. Has anyone else got another?
I like waffles.
I,
I like waffles. There you go.
We had, I mean, my favourite dish changes throughout the year depending on what the latest thing we've had. But recently, we've had, I don't know if you can get it outside the UK, but juicy marbles.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
So
really good.
Has everyone had that?
Oh,
Well,
yes.
yeah.
over Christmas, my wife made one that was supposed to be like a lamb shank with mint sauce and all that kind of stuff.
Oh wow.
And honestly, it was absolutely awesome. But I will give a shout out to Kathy, who is my work partner, but she's also a trained chef. So she has spent the last 2 years perfecting pre-vegan dishes with vegan ingredients. And Julia cooked this juicy marbles, and honestly, it was awesome. So that's my favourite dish over Christmas. And ask me in a month, and it will probably have changed again.
For me,
Nice.
Chip, if you're asking, I'm a curry guy. Any kind of Indian food, yeah, curry, naan bread, some nice onion bhaji, and a nice little minty yogurt with it. I'm in heaven, mate. So that would be me.
Nice. Cool. Who's left?
Me, I live in Indonesia now, so honestly, like the food I have is like rice and spicy sambal sauce and veggies, tofu, tempeh, like 3 meals a day. If I don't eat rice, I'm not full anymore. Tastes really changed.
Okay, I
Literally,
just want to give
like spicy for breakfast. That's normal.
a shout out for a few of us were at the Garden of Eden in Windsor, and I just want to give a shout out to their curry sauce, man.
Yeah.
I think we all agree that was one of the best
Hmm.
things we ate this year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's
Garden of Eden, Windsor,
yeah.
curry sauce
Legends.
and everything.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and the owner or manager is super nice. Go say hello and say those strange vegan blokes sent you. And leave a Google review to help them out, because they are exceptional.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'll give another
Legends.
shout out actually while we're on the shout out topic before Chris jumps in. But if you're in the north of England at all, northwest Preston area, check out a place called Satanic, not as in Satan, but as in SEITANIC, Satanic, because Satan is a food. They're a great restaurant. They do really nice kebabs, like really big, nice kebabs. The guy there is a really nice guy. He's hooked my brother up a couple of times, my younger brother, with some decent food. and me as well. But like, I don't live in the UK anymore, but he's been really nice to my youngest brother, who I guess everybody knows is like has autism, learning difficulties. So when people are nice to him, it means a lot. And also recently, I believe he's also had some really bad. The guy who owns the place had some really bad stuff with his car. Basically, I don't know what you call it. It's not a carjacking. It's not a theft, but they took his car to pieces, like parked on the street.
The catalytic converter or whatever.
No, like the whole, like they took every part of it. They just left the body of the car.
Oh,
literally,
wow.
like completely skinned it. So like, I imagine he's, you know, that's a big hit on the finances. So yeah, if you're in the northwest of England, he's a great guy and he makes great food. So get over there and support him, help him out. Yeah.
Cool. I know you're going to pass it over to me, but I don't know what am I saying.
Yeah, man. You still don't know?
Oh, okay, I'm going to go to something I like. So the Linda McCartney hoisin duck, which I don't like
Old school.
calling things.
I haven't had that for ages.
I know it's really good. I don't. The Linda McCartney duck approved slicer. With some rice and veggies and hoisin sauce.
I'm sure you can think of a letter to change in the front there, Chris.
Well, possibly, yeah.
Or to get David demonetised, but I think there's an easy solution to that one, mate.
Linda McCartney cuck.
Yeah, that's what I was
No, I'll tell you. Actually, I want to change my favorite food. I'm going to test now. I'm going to test who in the chat and who in this podcast or live stream has been around for long enough to remember this. This is going to be like separating the wheat from the chaff. My favorite food of all time actually is Bean Feast.
Oh, Bean Feast! Oh my god, yeah.
Yes.
Bean Feast.
Interesting. Look at how it split the room. So, okay, hands up. Who knows what Bean Feast is?
I don't.
Okay, and in the chat, anyone Bean Feast?
Like Zoymans type thing.
So basically, Bean Feast was it's like the OG thing, probably the first ever vegan, like kind of ready-made product, let's say, ever to exist. It wasn't like labeled as like this is vegan, but it just was. And it was this paper kind of packet, and it's like dry, and you just pour water in it. And you can do all sorts. You can put it in like a chili, or you can make a stew with it, or I think you could even if you put less water in, you can compact it, right? You could make it into like some kind of thing you could fry or something like that as well, maybe.
Like shepherd's pie.
Like
shepherd's pie, exactly. Huh?
Yeah, same as sauce mix and stuff like that.
Sort of. It's like sort of. I guess.
Did you used to get the powdered falafel stuff?
Yeah, I used to do them a lot. Yeah. Or Tesco. Yeah, check it out. Tesco's also used to have these dry burger mixes, burger and sausage mix. Do you remember those? Dude, they were banging. They were so.
David, I've got to read out the description here from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Bean Feast was a vegetarian ultra-processed food by bachelors from soya. It's like Alex Jones's worst nightmare.
That's the ones, yeah.
It was banging. It was honestly, and I remember, I mean, even after all this other new stuff came out, Bean Feast was still good. I don't know why it stopped. It wasn't like, oh, that was disgusting, we never eat that again. You know, like your OG vegan cheese was absolutely disgusting, right? But Bean Feast held up. It was still good. It still is good. You can probably still get like the other brands that do something similar. It's good. I don't know why they stopped making it.
So you made a serious grave error a moment ago, by the way, Rams, by saying that Bean Feast was the first ever, vegan kind of product that there was. Because I think you'll actually find, Mr. Rams, that the great Sir Leslie Cross
plant milk
created Plamil in, I think, the 1950s or so. And therefore, I guess you have to revoke your vegan card now. You're basically a utilitarian now, David.
I'm not a real vegan. Yeah.
Who's Leslie Cross?
What is Plamil?
Sounds about right. Plamil. It's this brand.
It's a plant milk.
Oh yeah, I've just come across it. I've just looked it up. I've never heard of this.
Apparently, you used to have to like unscrew it or something. It was like in a tin with a screw top, and it was like a powder that you would mix with water, and it would be like this vegan milk.
Nice. Okay, question. Let's do a question. So this one probably, Lawrence is probably going to be, oh, you've already kind of answered it, but it's kind of down your road. Were there any unexpected part? Well, I think we already have answered. Now forget this. We've already answered it a couple of times. We're going to go for something else. Okay. What new trends or strategies do you foresee shaping vegan activism in 2025? This is kind of cool because it's like basically, was there anything building in 2024 like innovations or like what predictions do you have of something that could be entirely new? James would be good for this one too because you're with obviously We the Free and you guys have got some big ideas that I've definitely not had any involvement in whatsoever. It's all you. We can't hear you right now, by the way. You're muted.
Okay, I wasn't going to say this, but seeing you line me up for one well, you hinted towards one pretty heavily there.
Do you have some like really impressive, amazing idea that no one's ever heard of before?
Yeah, no, people have definitely done it before. So towards the end of the year, We the Free did an event campaigning against the RSPCA, specifically the RSPCA Assured Scheme. So for people that don't know, the RSPCA Assured Scheme is basically like a stamp of approval that the RSPCA puts on some like meat and eggs, I think, and various products to say that this is like high welfare flesh, basically. And obviously, like most vegans think that's complete crap because they're basically like justifying and saying that there's like a nice way to do the wrong thing. So a bunch of different organizations, including Animal Justice Project, Animal Rising, We the Free, Joey Carbstrong, Mel and Steve, like so most of the guys on here have all kind of come together and done like a campaign against the RSPCA Assured Scheme. And what We the Free did specifically about that was we showed this amazing 3-minute documentary, which was put together by, I think, the guys at Animal Think Tank and Alex Lockwood, who's like award-winning, producer, made this like mini documentary, three minutes long, about Charlie, called For Charlie, who's a pig rescued from our RSPCA Assured farm. And we showed that documentary on the side of a big ass like screen on the side of a big ass van in the middle of Leicester city centre, and just got like dozens of people watching at a time doing like a mega 3-minute movie challenge. And I definitely want to see more of that in 2025. I thought it was a really cool idea. A little bit more expensive than doing a normal event. Like we'll have to fundraise to do more of them. But it got a lot of attention, and hopefully if we keep doing it, more and more press attention and more kind of general awareness. So that's one.
One thing I think is going to proliferate across 2025 as well is, and this is kind of related to that, James, because obviously Mel and Steve were there and they were doing stuff, and there were some other outreaches there within We the Free who were recording the stuff. But the proliferation of vegan outreach on social media, if you look at Instagram, for example, now, it's so video based a lot of the time because of the influence of TikTok, where people want to be watching these short form videos. And what I've noticed is we now have a diaspora of vegans who are doing these
what a word.
Thank you.
Let's take a moment. No, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to stop for a second and just all have a moment of just awe of that, because it wasn't just that word. You had another one before that too. What was the one you had before that? This sentence had two proliferation as well.
I can't even spell that word.
My God.
What is it? Diazepam?
The point is, there's now a more diverse range of vegans uploading outreach footage to social media than ever before. If you looked on social media back in the day, in fact, let me be retro on your asses here. Do you remember about 2014?
Let me go retro on your ass.
There was 3 vegan outreaches in 2014: Joey Carbstrong, Earthling Ed, and Banana Warrior Princess. Those
respect
were the
to Banana
3.
Warrior.
Yeah, there were 3.
She used to go to Trafalgar as well with Ed, or were they just in the same place?
She got Ed into outreach.
Ed probably started doing that because of her. She probably like helped him into it. She was she was probably the OG in the UK of actually going to people on the street, recording it, putting it on YouTube, asking people questions about veganism and animal rights.
Yeah, she was inspired by Joey, and then I think Ed was inspired by Emma.
I think she used to just walk up to people with a little mic at the fountains at Trafalgar Square and just start asking questions.
Yep.
Which is pretty impressive back then.
Yeah, yeah. No one else was doing
She's
it.
now a DJ. She's now a tech.
Yeah, I was going to say she's now a DJ. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's still
I love her.
vegan, in case anyone's asking.
She is.
still
She's a legend.
vegan AF.
Yeah, it's a good point though. There are a lot more people doing this, and it's what we've wanted for a long time. I spent quite a long time in 2018, I think it was, pushing that point. 2018, 2019. Most of the workshops or kind of speaking opportunities that I got with vegans was telling them to pick up the bloody camera and film themselves and put it online. And it was always taken with a lot of reluctance because it's scary, right? We all know that, and we forget that sometimes, I think, because we're so used to it. But, the average person is petrified of it. Because it's so much more than just leaving a comment. It's like your face, and what are people going to say about your face? What are people going to say about your voice? And the answer is they're going to say loads of nasty shit about your face and voice, and you've got to get ready for it. You've got to be ready for all of it, and it's tough, But I love now that people just, I don't know, it's like, yeah, the movement overall, I'd say, plant-based movement, whatever, is less popular than it was in, say, 2019. But the activism, you're right, George. The activism, especially the street outreach, seems to have just gone up, 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 especially in the last year or two. More and more people are like, yeah, I'm going to put my stuff on YouTube. And it's like, okay, I don't know what changed, but please keep doing it. That's amazing, right?
The German-speaking world and the Spanish-speaking world as well. So I'm seeing so much outreach content in there. So that's great. And I just wasn't seeing that before.
No, I agree. Totally agree, yeah. Yeah, there was a lot more people interested in plant-based diets and the vegan world, but there was nowhere near as much activism as there seems to be now, like from 2019 to 2024. It's really odd, actually. You'd imagine that with more interest in the movement and in plant-based diets, there would be more people taking to do activism, which there was, to be fair. The activism, like ground activism, there were more people, I'd say, but there were less of them doing it online.
Yeah.
And now there are less people doing it, but more of them are doing it online.
Well, I think it's because we've had a sensible discussion as a movement about what reaches most people.
Right.
And the sad reality is we do have to record so much of what we do. It was all well and good going to an AV demo, We the Free, whatever demo, but you're only going to largely change, if you do change someone there, the person that you spoke to. Whereas if you record your conversations, that can potentially change so many people. And we're seeing evidence of this. We're seeing people like Clif getting in his DMs all the time, for example. You changed me, and Tash and Rafaela and all these people getting DMs, all the time. So we're seeing that when the algorithm actually pushes this to hundreds of thousands of people, we're going to get more efficient results that way.
Definitely. Yeah. What else do we, anyone else got something to, whoa. The hell just happened? So guys, you can probably still hear me, but for some reason it literally just kicked everybody out of the stream. So let me see if we can get another. Maybe there's a limitation to the thing I was using. So this is good. This is good to know. It's good to learn for future reference to not use this system. Oh, you got double sound. All right, one second. I'll fix that. There we go. It should be on now. My bad. Yeah, there shouldn't be an echo now. I'll get back to this. Don't worry. We'll get them all back on soon. It was probably a good time for it to cut out, to be honest. Anyway, it was the end of a sentence. So while we're setting this up, how's everybody doing? Everyone enjoying this? Okay. New link. I've really enjoyed this. This has been really cool. I think we should do this more often, maybe every 6 months or something like that. Kind of like state of the scene, state of the movement, 6 month periodically go over this every kind of 6 months. I think it's pretty cool. Maybe once a year is cool. I don't know. I feel like twice a year would be better. All right. Just pulling everybody back in again. It just kicked everybody out, guys.
Or I just kicked you because we were having a nice chat.
Oh, for real? Oh, it just kicked me out.
We were still all in there.
Oh, well, yeah. No, I had no idea. That was super strange, but yeah, I'm glad we're back. We're all back again now. We've changed positions though.
Off the stream, mate.
I got kicked out of my own stream. Hilarious. Can everyone chat? Tell us if everything's okay. Apart from, but we know Cliff isn't here. Apart from that, is everything okay? Let us know.
Cliff needs to go half an hour to click a new link though.
All right, I believe
JP was saying something, but JP asked the question, is it a movement? But I don't know what he meant by that. So.
Yeah,
it completely cut out.
It was a bit of a question as much as anything.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because as I've always understood movements, they've had a kind of figurehead, a clear, concise message as to what they're trying to achieve, and they've had a central campaigning purpose towards an aim. And a lot of the time, just, I've only been in activism for like a couple of years, but there just seems to be a lot of a diaspora, if you like, of separate groups and communities that share a group of values, but it doesn't seem to take much for them to fragment. And I always remember the first activist event we ever went to was a march in Bristol, the Animal Rights March in Bristol. And there was about 100 people. And within that 100 people, there were 10 groups. And it seemed to me that if you were to take just as an example, like my mum's done campaigning for the Green Party. And I think they've realised that as a movement, they need to focus on very specific objectives like local councillor, 2 local councillors, 1 MP, 2 MPs. And if you want to take a really controversial one, look at what Reform did at the election. They came along, they focused on like 3 or 4 key messages. You could take there's a whole background to all of that. I get it. But do you think to say it's a movement, it kind of lacks that cohesion, it lacks that central figure? And it's more a comment than anything. I haven't got any massive solutions for it, but do you think that a figure will emerge that will be the one that appears on TV, that will be the one that the press go to, that will become kind of what I guess Ed was heading towards 2019?
It will be, JP,
decided he didn't want to,
It will be the second coming of Jesus Christ, as prophesied by Cowspiracy, who will come back to Earth to unite the movement.
Excellent.
There you go. So next question.
Hey, listen, move on. I think it was just an observation, really.
I think with the question in mind, like what new trend or strategy do you foresee shaping vegan activism? Well, that is something to foresee, actually. Do we see there being a more collective, a more unified front? I think it's not the question of whether we see it happening or not, I suppose, is kind of secondary to whether it needs to happen. And the answer to that in my eyes is, yeah, it needs to happen. There needs to be, it doesn't mean that there should be absolutely no diversity of thought, because that is terrible. We need diversity of thought, but we do need a united front. We do need to be able to say that, we need to realize that what we have in common is way more important than what we have.
It's kind of happening though, don't you think? Like with the RSPCA thing. Because you're getting all these different groups come together and actually work towards one common goal for once, which has been really nice to see. I can't remember the last time where everyone kind of got involved in that way.
You're right.
I totally agree, but don't you think it's ironic that all the vegan groups are getting together to attack another animal-related group?
Yes and no.
Whereas what it should be is RSPCA in their 200th year going, no, we're going to dump this, we're going to go forward, we're going to fight for animal rights and all the stuff that they should be doing. It still seems infighting. I know it isn't. I know what you're saying, Chris. That it's really good.
I see where you're coming from as well. I know what you mean.
But we're still kind of attacking people that are kind of supposedly on our
It's
side.
not like we're going after just like like Smithfield
Animal
or something,
agriculture.
Or like
the people there are assuring.
I would disagree, because it's not like, okay, yeah, vegans do tend to attack the RSPCA, but this kind of coalition of animal rights organizations doing this campaign aren't attacking the RSPCA. The narrative's always been very clear that the RSPCA is a hero for animals that has unfortunately lost their way and needs to like get back on track and use their huge annual budget to advocate for all animals, not just pets. So I would kind of disagree in that it's infighting, and I would say it's more like kind of in strategizing, but like slightly more public, because that's the angle we're using to get to them.
Well, I guess we're not attacking the RSPCA. We're attacking Assured, which is almost like not the RSPCA.
I agree.
It's also
but people from the outside,
like the evil second head of RSPCA.
But there's something to this. Go on, John.
Saying people are looking in, saying, why are vegans attacking the RSPCA? Because they don't know about Assured. They don't. And hopefully they're looking at it and hopefully we're raising awareness and all the rest. I'm just saying, from a bigger 10,000 mile high view of things, it's, well, aren't they all fighting for animals?
I guess in a way it's I see what you're getting at, but also in a way it's, if Earthling Ed is the person a lot of people go to when they think, oh, vegan. Okay, yeah, Earthling Ed. He's very famous, well known. He's done lots of stuff at Harvard. He's got a famous speech. Done lots of famous speeches, all this kind of thing. And it would be like if Earthling Ed now started saying, okay, so, hey, I'm sponsored by ButcherBox. See, now, unlike all of these other butchers, ButcherBox is actually very humane, high welfare. So I give it my stamp of approval as Earthling Ed. The problem is that's not just doing like a small amount of damage. It's doing unbelievable damage, because it's somebody who is trustworthy and on the side of animals saying that this animal abuse is totally fine. And that's what the RSPCA has been doing. And this is why it's not just kind of another animal group and it's like, oh, they did something crappy, let's go and get them. It's like, no, they are actually the linchpin holding together a lot of the reasons people would continue to eat animal products. Like, imagine if RSPCA approval never existed and it was just some fake setup company that was pretending it was kind of like knew what was humane and what wasn't. It'd be very easy for us to say, hey, look, that company's BS. And look, it's obvious they're BS. It's so much harder when it's the RSPCA. And that's what they've been getting away with for so long. They've been getting away with it. This side of the RSPCA using
the meat industry.
Right, exactly. They've been using their amazing reputation as the people for animals to make money out of selling the bodies and products of dead animals. And it's I don't know. On one hand, I get what you mean, optics. It can be confusing. On the other hand, I think it's so important that it's worth risking those bad optics, because it is. It's like gas is to the pork industry. It's the linchpin that if you can shut that part of it down, I think a lot of it would start to fall apart. I think that's what the RSPCA is to kind of animal products. That's what gas is to the pork industry. If you shut down the gas, if you make it so they can't use gas anymore, so much of that industry is going to go into panic and complete destruction, because the whole things are set up, like the main industry set up all on the basis of we can gas all these pigs, right? So that's why Joey did Pignorant and focused on gas rather than focusing on something else, for example. So yeah, that's what I think. Yeah. In conclusion, they're my thoughts.
Well, to kind of go back to the question a little bit, to go back to two questions, really. JP's about, do we have a movement? And I guess, David, your question about like kind of trends in the movement at the minute. I've definitely noticed over the last year, and I need to be careful how I say this, because I'm definitely not saying that the early movement never strategized or anything like that. But
what's that?
I've definitely noticed.
Sorry, are you shitting on the wow.
I'm not shitting on
wow, James Hattersley, the director of We the Free, is saying that the previous versions of this movement, that the forefathers of this movement didn't strategize. I can't
the
believe you
problem
would
is
say
they,
that.
they didn't clearly define the definition enough in the.
I'm
We the
shocked.
free invented.
I'm going to ignore that and finish my point.
We the free invented activism.
I've
Apparently
definitely
Germany
seen over
did,
the
didn't they?
last.
That's what I've heard, anyway.
Yeah. So wait. So we the free invented activism. Joey invented activism. Chris is the first person to ever take a non-vegan anywhere near a farm. We're all just
Actually, just revolutionary
pioneers in the chat here, guys. Leaders of the movement.
So, yeah,
Sorry,
but-
James. Try again.
Sorry, my point was, yeah, I mean, it's a different movement compared to all other movements in the first place, in that this is the first, kind of justice movement throughout history that's been comprised entirely of allies rather than victims. So automatically, we can't be based entirely off of what's happened in other justice movements, but we can learn from it, I'm sure. And I've definitely seen a trend over the last year or two of a lot more of the kind of mass movement, the wider kind of movement, so to speak, getting involved in strategy. I've seen a lot more activists going to conferences, whereas in the past, I understand it was a lot more kind of professionals and people that work in like charities and things like that that go into conferences. Now it's a lot more kind of activists going to conferences, strategizing, getting involved in discussions, learning about social change theory and what can we learn from past movements. There's organizations like Animal Think Tank that are trying to bring the movement together with like an overwhelming kind of a guiding principles and narrative that we want to see permeate through the movement. So I do see positive change in that direction, I guess is the answer to what you said, JP.
I think that's awesome, by the way. I completely agree with you. And I'm one of those people who previously, I don't know why, what's the psychology behind this, but previously I kind of looked at conferences and looked at these things like, why would I go there? Oh my, I don't know. I guess maybe ego. Maybe I thought I knew what I was doing. I don't know. I know what I'm doing. I'm fine. I don't need help. I don't need any advice or to learn anything. I think it's probably just youth and ego. I mean, guys take a little longer to mature, apparently. So, but like in the past couple of years, I've felt like more of a, I don't know, something changed, and I went to these conferences, and I wish I'd gone years ago. It's so stupid that I waited so long to go to one of these things, and now I feel like they're essential. I think every single advocate, every single person who even thinks about going on the street should attend an animal rights conference. And even if you disagree with what you hear, the stuff that you will get that you, even if it's, so if all you hear is things that you don't like and disagree with, you will gain so much just from that, just from, developing your actual thoughts and your opinions and you bashing them against others who that, you don't agree with. But that won't be the case. You'll probably end up agreeing with a lot more than you expect, with a lot of things that are probably controversial that you never would have considered. But then you look and you're like, oh crap, actually, that does make sense. You'll come out of it as a way more rounded advocate. I guarantee it. So
is there any reason that conference is in Luxembourg every year? Because it just seems, not to shit on Luxembourg, but I've never met a Luxembourgish vegan or activist. Maybe there are some, but I've never actually interacted with.
It borders like 6 countries or something.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a good central point.
We're talking about the International Animal Rights Conference, by the way, the IARC in Luxembourg, for anyone who's wondering. And the reason it's there, I think it's partly because the venue is so good. It's a really nice venue, and it just works really, really well, and it fits a lot of their goals. Like it's a venue that's it's in the middle of summer, but they don't want to use AC, obviously, because the environmental cost of it. So this venue is really nicely situated, and it has nice natural ventilation, for example. It's big enough to fit everybody. It has all the right technology. It has all the right, places for food and whatnot, and enough toilets. And also it's in a great location for everybody around the countries around to get to. So I think it just ticks a load of boxes. Yeah.
But isn't there a non-vegan donut stand just outside?
Rams knows all about that.
Or donut?
I don't think so.
I mean,
I think you're thinking about vegan camp out.
Yeah. I ran to Vark in Manchester last year, and go this year. Shout out to Vark for anyone's thinking of wanting to go to one of these things in March. End of March, isn't it? 28th, 29th, 30th.
So vegan animal rights conference in Manchester, right?
Yeah, in Manchester. Yep. It was eye-opening. It was really interesting. and also you're networking with people that are coming from other places, other points of view. Yeah, it was great.
Guys, sorry to be abrupt, but I've got to leave now. So thanks for having us on the stream, Rams, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the stream, guys, and I'll catch you all later. All right.
Thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Guys, if you don't already, go and check out George's content. It's Carnism Debunked on YouTube. I think it's his name now, actually. George Morton. Brilliant. George Martin, Carnism Debunked. Go check him out. Speaking of time, while we're on that, it's now 4 o'clock your time. That's what I said I was going to have you till. You can tell me now if you want to wrap up or if you want to go for a longer. That's up to you guys. Lawrence can't hear you. You're muted. You're muted, bro. Just unmute yourself.
I think he's shouting at someone else, isn't he?
You are muted.
He's not muted. You definitely are muted.
Yeah, it tells us.
The mute sign is on the screen.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God. What the hell just happened?
I'm happy to stick around. I do need to pee, but besides that, I can stick around.
What do we think, guys? Should we go
I'm
a little...
okay for like to be honest, I would like to see the Liverpool match at 4:30, but
okay, we'll go for. I'll tell you what, we'll go till past, about another 20 minutes,
but
and
I'll stay beyond that. It's fine. It's
No.
fine.
We'll go for.
I'm going to pee, and I'll be back.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll go for another 20 minutes. We'll do some kind of wrap up questions in 20 more minutes, and we'll.
Lawrence, you're still muted.
Lawrence, still muted, mate. You need to unmute yourself. That's. There's a little mute button. Just click it, and then you'll be unmuted. I know this is not what the problem is, by the way, but I'm just pretending it is so that he looks really dumb. Because there's something wrong, obviously. That's why
I don't think he can hear us either.
I think he can. Oh, he can't hear us? Let's just
no, I don't think so. He's not
rip into him then. All right, let me think. Let me have a look and see what questions we've got then. And then I'll see if there's one more we can do that will just be like a nice one to round things off. I'll make it interesting, though. So don't go anywhere, guys. It's not over yet. And this one's going to be the most interesting question of the whole stream. But while we're waiting for Chris, let me just respond to Marcus Zuganellis. Thank you, Marcus, for the super chat. He says, "Thank you, vegan activists. You are my family now and forever." It's very kind. It's a very nice thing to say. Appreciate it. Lunchy Munchy also super chatted with a question. How do you feel about vegan products by companies that make money from animal products like Vivera, Richmond, or is it better to support? Is it okay to support such brands? Basically, is it okay? Is it better to support such brands? Is what they said. So, does anyone want to start that, or do you want me to start that?
What were the brands specifically named again?
Just vegan products that are made by companies that are also like the parent companies and animal products company, like Vivera, Richmond, for example.
For me personally, I would say try and make as many ethical choices as you can always. But where your line is, like how far are you going to take that line? Because if you go far enough up the tree of any company, they're probably going to be owned or sponsored, or you're going to find fault somewhere. So
who's clicking? But sorry, 1 minute, Cliff. It's really distracting. Someone's clicking really loudly, and it comes really loudly over Cliff's voice. All right, continue.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, but it's not that microphone, by the way. Sounds like it's the laptop microphone. Go on, Cliff. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, so I mean, there is an ethical line somewhere, but I would never tell anybody not to buy a vegan product. Obviously, stuff for me, like McDonald's, for example, I don't buy McDonald's, but that's a totally arbitrary line, Some people might argue you can go in and buy McPlant, and then that encourages them to keep selling a vegan product. So it's a tricky line. It's difficult to be hard and fast on every ethical problem that exists in this world. So I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I'll add one thing to that before we jump onto our final kind of topic to get into, because I think this one we can I want something a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger picture. But with this one, I mean, my opinion on this, I used to take a hardline approach to this, but I don't think it checked out. So basically, you would have to somehow show that buying a vegan product from a company like Richmond results in more animals being exploited and killed. I don't think that you can really show that, because that wouldn't make sense. It's the vegan product is attracting a new audience for them, and it actually enables them to make money without exploiting animals. And so I think purchasing a vegan product is always going to be likely to be net positive, even if it comes from a place that is bad to animals. Now, in terms of your personal opinion on that, there is principles here to be had. So principally, if you're focused on just how you feel, then I understand a lot of people wouldn't want to do that. And I get that. That's totally fine. The problem happens is when somebody says, oh, well, actually, you're not a vegan, or you're hurting animals by purchasing that vegan product from that company. This is then where we start to get a problem. So I agree with you what you said, Cliff. It's okay for Cliff to say, I don't like McDonald's, I'm not going to eat a McDonald's. But Cliff would have to somehow prove that eating a McPlant causes harm to animals or directly exploits an animal because of the McPlant. Cliff couldn't do that because the reality is that's not how it works. It's not how we live in capitalism. It's not how capitalism works. The likelihood is actually that buying the McPlant is creating a better future for the future of like vegan food, for the future of vegan options, for the future of animal-free food. And then that's obviously positive for animals, because the more of that we have, it follows that the more that people will likely to choose those things if there's more of them and if they're more popular, and then it just keeps going down that road, you know. That's my take on it anyway. I think we more or less agree, Cliff, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I said earlier, I ate at Wagamama's. I mean, they
exactly.
Vegan products, so,
Wagamama's and McDonald's is not really a difference.
Anything that makes it easier for people to go vegan initially,
right?
Even if they're just plant-based and they're working towards being vegan, at least there's more choice, more options, less reasons not to.
I agree. JP, I'm on the street all the time. Where I stand, there's a McDonald's, a Burger King, it's the usual town centre. And like when I'm talking to young lads, I will say to them, like, you can literally go around the corner in the McDonald's and buy a McPlant. Now, I don't buy it myself, but I see that there's a huge benefit there of being able to tell young people that, yes, you can still go in the McDonald's with your friends and buy something to eat. I'm not going to say, oh, don't buy a McDonald's. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's a personal choice for me not to, but...
Yeah,
surely it makes sense. If you're going to tell like teenagers, oh, by the way, you can't go to McDonald's anymore and you can't go to Burger King with your friends, you know, how successful are they going to be?
Well, it's like what we said earlier about the camp out. Same thing.
You could see a bit. You could see a bit preachy, like Chris, can't you?
But it's like Cliff
been talking about you, Chris.
You're slagging me off.
Cliff, it's like what we talked about earlier about the vegan camp out. It's like, if we're going to say that don't buy the McPlant, don't buy the Richmond sausages, don't buy any vegan product made by a meat company, it kind of leads to sound the same logic as don't go to a vegan event if it's held on land that is owned by someone who isn't vegan. It kind of goes down that same road. And then we end up saying, well, guys, all you can eat to be vegan is just fruits, vegetables, and pulses, and only from companies that only make fruits, vegetables, and pulses. You can't go to the cinema, you can't go bowling, you can't go to any festival or any event or any bar or any cafe that is either not vegan or owned by people who are not vegan. It becomes a ridiculous concept, and it becomes more about philosophical purity and kind of almost religious in a sense, the more down that road you go. Whereas if you focus on practical and outcomes based thinking, where you're thinking, okay, what actions can I take to make a better world for animals, and what actions can I avoid that make it worse for animals? Buying a McPlant is neutral at worst and positive at best. I've never had someone express to me why that would be negative. You know what I mean? Like, not in a convincing way, other than it makes me feel bad. I don't feel good about it, which is not a reason for somebody else to do it if they don't feel anything about it. You know what I mean?
As an activist, David, my goal is to get people to the baseline, and the baseline is stop funding the exploitation of animals.
Exactly, yeah.
And then once they're on board with that, then they can go further if they wish and make more ethical choices if they wish after that. The baseline should be always to get people to base camp, which is no exploitation, and stop funding it.
Right. Interesting that you use Basecamp as an analogy. That's like a similar analogy to what Tobias Leinart uses when he talks about how people become vegan. But he wouldn't say it's Basecamp. He would say that's the top of the mountain. And he would say Basecamp is when somebody, say, for example, someone does veganuary. That's Basecamp. like, oh, they're just showing some interest. And then they begin the climb to the point where they say, oh, actually, holy crap, I should be a vegan. And that's the end of the journey, let's say, of climbing the mountain, you know. It's interesting.
Didn't JP use a similar analogy about inviting people into a big tent?
Oh, yeah?
Or am I imagining that?
I think that was just a party he was having.
Last question then, and this is a big one. What is your, if you're going to pick one hope, and let's be realistic here, pragmatic, realistic, not pie in the sky, right? What's your hope for the state of the vegan world? Let's say, let me be more specific. Just what is your, if you're going to hope for one thing for 2025, one thing to come to fruition, what is it? What do you hope comes to fruition in 2025 for animals, for veganism? And like I say, try and be pragmatic and realistic if you can. Because obviously we're not going to get a vegan world in 2025, are we, for example?
I can go first. I don't know if this actually is pragmatic, but lab-grown meat having much more progress. Like, you know, maybe it being passed through the regulators in a significant amount of countries, because it's only in a few countries at the moment. Or, you know, maybe there are, you know, massive increase in investment in it. Or, you know, someone like, as controversial as he is, if someone like Elon Musk caught on to lab-grown meat and thought that was a good idea for some, whatever, I don't know what reason he would particularly have. I mean, I know he likes, you know, he wants to electrify, you know, automobiles. So maybe for similar sort of environmental reasons, he would want to do lab-grown meat. But even if it's not him, just if lab-grown meat was able to make significant gains next year, I think that would be a massive win.
Cool. Nice. That's a good one, I think. I agree.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think if you think that AI has been around for just over a year and the progress that it's made, and if you look into the field in which they're operating, where they're using it to design new materials, atomic structures, and helping people to accelerate the speed at which technology advances, then I think we're much closer to a world where lab meat gets to parity with slaughter meat. And the moment, I've said this for a while, but the moment McDonald's can buy a chicken nugget for a millionth of a penny less than they're paying now, chicken farmers are fucked. So yeah, I think the ever advancing march of AI is going to assist in this, because it's just a technical issue now. It's not even a kind of science problem. It's a scaling problem, and scaling is something that AI is really designed to help with, because it addresses the detailed science of how you go from a very small vat in a lab to multi-vats spread out over countries. So yeah, that's my hope for the year, that we get, like Lawrence says, closer to a product that everyone will be allowed to eat.
Cool. Does anyone want to go next? Cliff?
I think I'd just like to see like the progress in the understanding of what veganism is improving still, because over the last few years I've seen a definite shift in it's becoming more animal rights focused again. We had a big thing, especially kind of around kind of 2020, I'd say, where it was just all plant-based environment that was always associated with veganism. But now everything seems to be connecting more with animal rights and the ethics, especially the films are coming out as well, like Pignorant, Cowspiracy, everything is ethics based. And I'd like to think that next year, or this year, should we say, we'll continue that, and that people will start to associate veganism more with animal rights than the things that they shouldn't be associating it with. And it seems to be going that way. Like everyone seems to be kind of very much pushing animal rights. Anytime there's someone's brought on for an interview, they'll, you know, even if it's to do with the environment, they'll still angle it in a way to make it about animal rights. And I think that's a good a good a bit of progress that we need, because obviously veganism as a word has been so, like no one has really understood it, and I'm kind of hoping that people get closer and closer to it, because we've had so many conversations about should we ditch the word, should we just rename ourselves something else, because there's so much confusion. But I am seeing a little bit of hope that people are starting to connect a bit more, and the way people are talking about it on the streets more and everything as well is very much animal rights. The way AV and has very much angled it. We're not going to talk about the environment. We're not going to talk about this. Everyone is kind of associating veganism as an animal rights movement now. So I kind of hope that, it keeps kind of going that way.
Cool. Cliff, do you want to go?
I think I would just say I'd love the movement to come together and focus more. Like over the past few years, we've become so polarized within the movement. People attacking each other, people saying you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong.
Practical, Cliff, practical.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Realistic.
It's just the way human beings are. But I do think it is a realistic goal for us to focus on the animals and come together as a movement and realize that the infighting and attacking each other and all the crap that goes on in this movement doesn't do a solitary thing to help animals in any way whatsoever. And just appeal to people and say, it's not about us at the end of the day. It's not about human beings. It's about the actual victims who are the animals. We need to come together and accept that we don't agree about everything. I mean, there's 5 of us, as far as I can see on the screen here now. I guarantee if we talked about politics or religion or whatever, we're going to disagree on absolutely just about everything. But there's one thing we can all agree on, and that is the emancipation of other animals, right? So that's what the movement needs to focus on and come together and realize that's what we should be working for all the time.
Yeah, awesome. I agree. Yeah, I agree with what everybody's said so far. I think I've already committed to what Cliff is saying there in the last year, and that's something I'm really passionate about as well. I would probably, give like a similar answer to that, I suppose, if Cliff hadn't have given it. But I will actually say that something a little different then. It's more in line with what JP and Lawrence were saying. But I think that 2025, something very, very big could happen, and I really hope it does happen. And it's kind of what we were discussing already with the political situation over in the USA. You've got a president and a vice president and high-level politicians and the richest man on earth, I believe, Elon Musk, all talking about how they're going to strip back funding and expose as many useless parts of government and useless propped up industries as they can. Now, if they are actually going to do that, they are going to lock heads and end up going after big parts of animal agriculture. And if they stand by their word, that is. Whether they do it or not is something else. But if they're being honest, they'll see how inefficient it is. They'll see how much money sunk into it, how much land use it has, how much water use it has, and how much it just doesn't. I can't remember what the stat was, but the amount of calories it puts out, even taking ethics out of the situation, it's not worth it. The amount of money, the amount of the resources that go in versus calories out, it's completely skewed. So even though they're not necessarily ethical people, my hope is that they end up actually doing what they completely gut that system out and stop a lot of it from being able to operate so inefficiently, which will mean a lot of it has to be shut down and adapted and changed into far less profitable, methods and far less profitable systems, which means a lot of people would probably just switch businesses and do something else because you're not going to be able to make a load of money out of it anymore. If they did that, or at least started to do that, the knock-on effect would be insane, because it's not just the USA. It's only one country. The rest of the world follows the USA. The reason there are mega farms and factory farms is most likely because the USA made them. The way they made them. Like, as far as I'm aware, the ones in Europe that I've seen and been to, they're based on USA models. So they really do set trends in technology and stuff. So I have a hope that 2025 could be the beginning of the end of factory farming, which obviously is not a vegan world, but bloody hell, that's a lot closer it's a hell of a lot closer to a better world for animals if factory farming starts to be broken down and is no longer sustainable, or sustainable meaning like it just can't operate anymore because it doesn't get propped up and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my hope for 2025, but we'll see. More 2025 and beyond, I would say, but yeah.
Wasn't there something in the news recently about the chickens, and they're saying about they want to ban the Franken chickens or something? I'm sure I saw something
sure about that
recently, which is obviously will screw the entire chicken industry because it's all based on chickens growing so fast.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sure I saw something like that. But yeah, that would obviously go towards that end of the kind of factory farming era,
right.
Because without that kind of chicken, then there's no more factory farming of chickens anyway.
The problem is it's the lobbying, right? So it's with as long as the lobbyists can keep on doing what they're doing and have all the power, they'll in Europe, UK, there's no real movement against that, right? And so if you go to the European Union politicians and stuff, the lobbying is so strong there that it's really, really difficult for animal people to get anything done. But if you look at the USA, I mean, if they stand for what they've said they are going to do, it means that the lobbyists are going to have no power because they're literally going out there and saying a big F you to the lobbyists. They're like, no, we don't want your money. We don't need your money. We're shutting this crap down. That's what they've committed to say they're going. That's what they've said they're going to do. They're not going to allow themselves to be bought out or anything because they're going to get rid of these things. So if they actually do it, and with the right kind of rising in a lot of Europe, it might end up setting something off that could be really, really beneficial to animals. Nothing to do with veganism, nothing really to do with our movement, but definitely beneficial to both. So, yeah. Couple of questions before we go, guys. Some super chats, and then we'll wrap up. JP and Julia, or just Julia, tipped and asked the question.
Is my dinner ready?
Yeah. JP, is dinner? Your dinner's ready. Get off here. No, I'll ask that question. This will be the last question. But first of all, Ethical Sci-Trans Project. Thank you so much for the tip. I appreciate it. Now, Julia, how important do you think plant-based councils, universities, hospitals, etc. are? And let's keep this one succinct.
Are we all going in for this one?
Well, I guess if somebody, I mean, I think the answer is probably going to be the same across the board. So if I think, Lawrence, you have a pretty strong opinion on it. So you go ahead, and then we'll all see if we agree.
Yeah, I would just say I think they're enormously important. The more things like this happen, and they've been very successful so far, at least plant-based universities, and it will just normalize. If it doesn't normalize veganism more, it normalizes plant-based eating more, and that is still a win. It's having a practical impact as it's shifting calories away from animal foods and towards plant foods, but it also normalizes it culturally. So I just think the more of that sort of stuff, the better.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's great. Yeah. Perfect. And once again, I'll just say thank you again to Ethical Sci-Trans Project. I kind of glossed over your tip there because I was getting to the question. I realized it was kind of rude. I really appreciate you supporting this stream. Thank you. Thanks to everybody actually who supported this stream today. You've been asking some really nice questions, and you've been getting very active in the chat. It's been very nice to have all these cool guys here with you and having this conversation. I don't know if you guys have been seeing the live chat, but there's been a lot of debate going on in there and discussion, and it's been pretty.
I haven't really caught up with it. I've kind of had it open, but
yeah, it's been nice. People have been reasonable, and nothing's gone crazy or anything like that. Just nice, healthy debate, and this is great that we
you
can.
Right off though, Chris.
What's that?
I said they've been slagging you right off though.
They've been saying, "Who's that guy in the middle who's like 50 wearing a backwards hat?" And an emo fringe. What the hell's going on?
Dr. Zeus has come out with his sequel, Twat in a Hat.
Oh my god! No, never get rid of the emo fringe, bro. Never. Always keep the emo fringe, even when you get into like proper old age. I want to see it. Say again.
Yeah, I'm going to change my Instagram.
I was going to ask you, Chris, were you an emo back in the day, or
this is the thing? I wasn't actually an emo. I was actually into like ska punk. I used to wear like Hawaiian t-shirts and stuff back in the day. Or completely the opposite. I got into some of the emo stuff later, kind of thing. But I would never really class myself as a true emo. I think it's because I've just got the fringe. I think that's what it is.
I mean,
you're a Charlie XCX fan.
Yeah, I listen to Sabrina Carpenter and Chapel Roan.
I mean, look, you can deny it all you want, bro, but like is full emo. You know, and I know you like emo, so why are you denying it? We've
No, I'm not
discussed
denying-
how we like.
I'm saying
Yeah.
back in the day when
Oh.
the emo thing was going on. I mean, people associate emo now with like, I mean, it's going to a music conversation now of like My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy. That's not emo. I used to listen to like Dashboard Confessional. Like that
Yeah.
was that emo I kind
Yeah.
of listened to a bit. Like Brand New, Taking Back Sunday.
Did you ever do Funeral for a Friend though?
No, I didn't.
Wow, they're
But
like
like I said, I was
all-time
always
favorite
more
for
of a
me.
punk kid. I was always more of a ska and punk kid than I was into the emo side.
all right.
Okay.
Okay. Well, all right then.
That's
Well,
good. I like the label. I'll take it.
wait a minute, no, bro, no, I'm not having this. You. I'm sorry, we can't let this go. We gotta finish. You were literally the emo shirt. You get the emo shirt. Is it there? Can you get it?
What do you mean the emo
The
shirt?
emo shirt. The one that you always wear, that is literally the definition of the emo shirt. It's like what every emo was wearing for like a decade.
I don't know.
The red one, the red and black.
Oh, the red and black one.
How
I
can
didn't
you
wear it
how
that
can you
often.
claim not to be? Okay, we're going way off here. All right, that's my fault. I shouldn't have brought us on this tangent.
There's lots of eras of emo, right? There's lots. I mean,
Chris
this is a
an-
conversation for another time.
Chris is an
I'll
emo
sure.
daddy. Well, that's what we conclude. Chris is emo daddy. All
I
right.
take the label. It's fine. It's all good.
Great, perfect. So, guys, yeah, everybody get over and follow everybody here. Clif Grant is Clif Grant on all the socials. Chris Hines is Chris Hines official, I think, on some of the socials. Chris Hines, you'll find him. Lawrence Anton is Lawrence Anton. JP is JP
Good luck.
Kruzowski.
Parties.
Artie's Parties. Okay. But you also have Artie's Parties is the one. I've put the link. All links down in the description. Go to the description. You can go find everybody. And if you're in the UK, definitely go to one of the Artie's Parties events, which we didn't get a chance to really get into. Very cool, though. It's comedy, vegan comedy nights, cabaret nights, vegan entertainment, all good fun and games, really good laugh. Everyone has a good time. And they raise money for sanctuaries. So you can't ask for more than that, can you? If you're a vegan camp out hater, you can ask for more. You can demand that it's in a place that is not. I'm joking. Let's not go down that road. But yeah, perfect. Is there anything anybody wants to add? Any plugs? Anything anyone wants people to
I
do?
want to do a quick plug.
Yeah.
Can everyone go and follow Hakuna Matata Sanctuary? They're really, really low on funds at the moment. If anyone can chuck anything their way, massively appreciated.
Okay.
They're like my local
One of our-
sanctuary. So please support.
One of our sanctuaries that we support as Artist Parties as well. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Is it Hakuna
Great people
Matata?
down there.
Hakuna Matata or Hakuna Matata? Because I couldn't really.
Matata.
Was it
The
Matata?
Viosa.
Filthy
Matata,
southerner.
Matata. It's all the same.
Perfect. Yeah. So go check that sanctuary out then, please, and help them out. Perfect, guys. Thank you so much for doing this. It was a lot of fun. I was when the stream cut off, I suggested we could maybe do it twice a year potentially. It's kind of like state of the scene, state of the movement, catch up type thing. Like where's everybody at? What's going on? It's every 6 months, maybe something like that. It could be kind of cool. We'll have a chat about it. And people, if you want that, get down in the comments underneath the video and tell us you want more of this. Let us know. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you all in the next one. You know,
Bye,
give
everybody.
us a wave.
Cheers.
Bye.